dimmer switches. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
Hey, St. Louis, it's Dan Bongino, proud to be part of the News Talk STL lineup.
Every weekday from 11 to 2, we'll get together to talk about what's going on.
News, analysis, opinion, and always some fun. Make an appointment to be with us every weekday beginning at 11 on News Talk STL.
Welcome home.
School bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror, looking at the promise of the promised plan. One kid dreams of fame and fortune. One kid helps pay the rent. One could end up going to prison. One just might be president.
Truth warrior, woke destroyer.
Only in America.
Randy Tobler.
Dreaming in red, white, and blue.
On News Talk STL.
Good morning. Welcome to a big Tobler show. You listen, you won't want to miss this one, folks, because the dump of a Title IX travesty yesterday will absolutely frost your buns when we get into it. Zach Smith here in just a few minutes at 6:25. Of course, he's with Heritage, and while he's written the book about Soros and the rogue prosecutors, we're going to talk to him about the Trump trial, Title IX. And if you have a young lady in or going to college, if you are a young man or have a young man in your house who will be going to college, you will not want to miss that. We'll be unpacking that as the day goes on. Mike Johnson under increasing heat now as he advances the aid packages under individual bills. They will be voted on. Required some Dems to get that. We see Israel now denying that they had involvement in explosions and injuries inside Iraq after the tickle and the little nudge that they did to Iran, reminding them that they're a force to be dealt with, that is the Israelis. And of course, the goings on of the week as we review those with Mayorkas impeachment, crickets chirping never happened. The trial never happened. Welcome in. I'm Randy Tobler. There's Jerome. And we both had late evenings, but we don't care about it because there's so much to excite us this morning and excite you that we'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed with lots of coffee. You got the coffee cooking, Jerome? I've got the coffee cooking.
Yeah, it's still brewing, but once it kicks in, this is going to be a very power-packed show.
All right. And listen, if you can't catch the show right off the bat or all of it, I understand. We'll give you an excuse, a hall pass on that. But, you know, you will want to catch it because it's going to be a power-packed show. As I said, Zach Smith joins us to talk about the Trump trial, the J6 hearings that, it happened earlier in the week, but pivotal discussion and some very pithy during the oral arguments, pithy comments by Judge Neil Gorsuch that I thought it was one of the clips of the week. We'll have that for you. Zach joins us at 6:25. Todd Showalter, of course, the Toon Master, the Cartoon Meister himself, will join us at 7:06 or a little before. Virginia Kruta always has lots of deep analysis at 7:45. 8:06, Senator Jim Talent to talk about the Israeli-Iran conflict. I can't wait to talk to Jim about that. I think it was one of the most brilliant strategic moves I've seen militarily in years. We'll see what Jim says and where the whole tension in the Middle East debacle and issue is going to take us. And Bob Onder, Dr. Bob Onder joins us at 8:25. Of course, Bob's running for Blaine Luetkemeier's seat, but we want to talk to him about this hit piece that the St. Louis Post Most Detached. I almost used the wrong name. They are the St. Louis Most Detached. They did a hit piece on the decline to sign movement when it comes to this initiative petition that essentially, if read carefully, would legalize abortion and release from indemnity, from any kind of liability, any botched abortions. And I've seen them absolutely ruin women's lives. We've had evidence of botched abortions that can kill women. And not only that, but apparently there'd be no possibility of medical liability claims. And again, I'm not any fan of the trial lawyers, tell me, but the careful read on this thing and the way it was misrepresented, just a travesty as far as the criticism of this initiative petition for abortion. So we'll unpack that with Dr. Bob Onder at 8:25, and look forward to having you with us as much as you can be with us on this chilly but beautiful weekend as turkey season is wrapping up its first week. I'm itching to get out there. Maybe I'll get out tomorrow. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right, where do we start? All right, we start with Mayorkas, and Ted Cruz, I think, summed up the absolute frustration that so many of us, not only on the Senate floor, but so many Americans felt after we have watched 10, 11, 12 million invaders. I'm not going to use the word illegal aliens. I'm not going to use the word newcomers, invaders into our country. We've watched this happen absolutely unfettered. Open the doors. I'm here for asylum. Okay, come on in. We'll give you an Obama phone. We'll give you health care. Hey, maybe you'll get a room in the Ritz-Carlton in New York. Who knows? We're going to bus you up there. Hope they served them some of those little biscotti snacks on the way up there. Maybe some small single-serving Cutty Sark, too, on the way up. You never know. And after all of this, Mayorkas properly gets impeached in the which is essentially the equivalent of an indictment on the House side. They ceremonially, finally, after I think too long of a delay, they ceremonially walk the impeachment articles across the Capitol into the other side, take them into the Senate, and within a few short hours, it was all over and nothing happened. It was tabled, and here was Ted Cruz's frustration.
Sorry to say that my friend from Kansas is not wrong. In the 237 years of our nation's history, I don't know that there has been a more shameful day in the United States Senate than today. What we just witnessed was a travesty. It was a travesty to the United States Constitution, and it was a travesty to the American people.
And it really was. I mean, look, at a minimum, I think that it was, people have argued, good people have argued that Mayorkas was only doing the bidding of his president. Ultimately, the buck does stop at the Oval Office, right? Couldn't we all agree that that's the case? Maybe Biden should have been impeached. Who knows? Did I say Biden? Yes, I did. Maybe Biden should have been impeached. Nonetheless, Mayorkas has lied to Congress. How many times? I mean, we're not going to waste your time with the montage of, how many times, whether it was on TV, but certainly several times under oath when asked, Secretary Mayorkas, is the border secure? The border is secure, he says smugly as he just with chin lifted high. I mean, come on, that's lying to Congress. Bill Malugin and others at Fox News have done, I think, the best reporting on that. The drones that they've had, the people are streaming across. The border is not secure. Well, he'd argue that, well, at the checkpoints, the former border crossings, of course we have troops there and it's secure. I mean, these guys have got it. So, first of all, lying to Congress. I mean, and then not protecting the border, not threatening, I think absolutely securing the loss of sovereignty of these United States. If that's not at least a misdemeanor, and I think it could be argued is a high crime, I don't know what is. I mean, if your job is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and you're letting people stream across, and then what happens in down there in Georgia? We have Laken Riley brutally murdered because she goes out for a run on the college campus. We've seen the attack on police officers, followed by giving America and New York City the middle finger up in New York City. I mean, we've seen wanton violence across the land by these people. And your job is to do that, and you just openly just let people across, all the while whining that, oh, I don't have the resources. It's a broken immigration system. Well, why is it more broken now than it was when Donald Trump was in charge? He was building a border wall. He made it clear we're going to close the border. He made those people wait in Mexico. He invoked no more catch and release. I mean, he did away with that. And with the stroke of a pen, within a day, Biden authorized it to happen. And Mayorkas carried it out, and that's his duty. Nonetheless, this thing should have seen a trial. He should have been convicted. At least he should have been dragged over the coals, metaphorically, in the Senate. But Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, as they will do, know how to wield power, which is a nice segue to what in the heck is going on in the GOP caucus. They don't know how to wield power. I am so flummoxed by what's going on in the House. Mike Johnson is by all measure a conservative guy. I mean, he's got a biblical worldview. He was the general counsel, I believe, for the Alliance Defending Freedom. That doesn't get more conservative than that. He has functionally a 1 or 2 vote margin. And there are the purists, including most lately Tom Massey. When Tom Massey says he's got a problem with Mike Johnson, my support of Mike Johnson begins to waver, because Thomas Massey out of Kentucky is one smart dude. And if you hear him in the committee hearings, he knows his stuff. He does his homework. He has now joined Marjorie Taylor Greene in the vote of non-confidence. They haven't pulled the trigger on that motion to vacate. It wasn't a privileged motion, I guess, so that has to be activated, even though it's been thrown out there. And now a third congressman has said he's got to go. I still scratch my head. Why advance the Ukraine, the Israeli, the Taiwanese packages, and not first advance the border security package? I think I know why. I think he doesn't have enough support within his own caucus to even get that passed now without some kind of strings attached or some kind of negotiation. But he's now had to go first for the budget to keep the government running, and now to get the House rules, I guess, to get these individual aid packages just yesterday, had to get Democratic support for that to happen. And okay, that's okay. I think good people can have discussions about aid to certainly Israel. I mean, if we don't defend Israel as the only bastion of democracy and freedom in the Middle East, I think all is lost. I mean, I think the Middle East just descends into tribal, Bedouin warfare, and I mean that metaphorically, going back centuries. And the anti-Semitic wiles of those nations like Iran, like Iraq, like Syria, I think would be absolutely unleashed. And I think you'd absolutely see a genocide in Israel. So I can see justifying that one. Ukraine, is Putin really going to march on to Eastern Europe and then beyond? I'm not sure. I'm just not so sure of that. Because NATO would be invoked immediately. And I think he knows he would have hell and fury to face if he ventured into Poland or into some of the smaller countries, Finland and others. But why the heck aren't we doing some border security stuff and tying it? And if it means, no package for Israel, no package for Ukraine, okay. I don't get it. All that said, we have to put our rational hats on at some point, and we have to ask ourselves, and Mike Johnson has made the comment, look, until you get the security briefings, the intel briefings that you get when you're in the position he's in about what aid to those countries means and what you are really fighting against, you may not understand the full story. I wish he'd share some of it with us, but of course it's classified stuff. So who knows? I mean, Bush was given faulty information and acted on it in Iraq. Look what that left us. People lost their eyes, lost limbs, maimed, dead. I mean, we spent blood and treasure like crazy on bad intel. So I don't know, but man, we've got to get some border security. If they're not going to impeach Mayorkas or try Mayorkas and convict him, at least can't we get some border security? It's crazy. Hey, let's step aside, fill up our coffee cups, and then come back and talk to our good friend Zach Smith from Heritage. Why? Because we've got to talk Trump, we've got to talk J6 and obstruction charges, and yes, we've got to talk Title IX. The Title IX rules released by the Department of Education yesterday are the story of the week, maybe the story of this election cycle, and we'll talk with Zach about it when we come back. Stay there.
When it's important to you,
I follow the news pretty much throughout the day.
It's on News Talk STL.
That case is a scam, it's a sham, and it's a hoax.
This is so infuriating, I don't even know what to do.
Shame on you, Joe Biden!
Does the president have dementia?
That is an incredibly offensive question to ask.
News, analysis, opinion.
This is where we've gone to La La Land. This is why we've got to have a new leader in the White House.
Number one for live and local conservative talk. 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Hello, St. Louis. This is Everett Jones of Jones Air and Water Treatment. I know you're ready for some summer weather. While we still have the spring to get through, this is a great time to think about your swimming pools. That's right, now is a great time to save on EcoSmart salt-free, chlorine-free, acid-free pool products. Call now and get 50% off glass-packed media and 15% off all other EcoSmart products. Call now at 636-899-1040, now through the end of April.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Schroer from Stand and Fight every Sunday 8 to 10 p.m. If you need tree removal, storm damage, repairs to trees, tree trimming, pruning, if your bushes are out of control, call River City Tree Service. Free quotes right now, 314-270-8071, 314-270-8071. Professional tree services performed by ISA certified arborists. Request your free quote at rivercitytreeservice.com.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
In the fast-paced world of digital marketing, making connections is a challenge for any business. But what if we told you there is a place where connections aren't just made, they're grown? Meet 2060 Digital, your premier Google partner and top-tier digital agency. We don't just follow trends, we set them. At 2060 Digital, we're not just another agency, we're your strategic partner. We dive deep into your challenges and develop solutions that drive measurable outcomes. Ready to elevate your digital presence with campaigns that connect? Google 2060 Digital today.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Welcome back into the program. Always fun when we get together with Zach Smith, of course, our legal go-to gentleman from Heritage and author, we might say, as well. And usually we're talking about rogue prosecutors and other things. We've got some other interesting news that dumped yesterday afternoon. And Zach, welcome into the program. We've got a lot to talk about, my friend.
Well, always great to be with you, Randy. I appreciate you having me on the show this morning.
Hey, let's start with the Title IX rules that came out with the Department of Education yesterday. And I mean, I caught Megyn Kelly on her podcast, and Zach, you know, I've heard a few expletives in my life, but Megyn was on fire, dropping some expletives. The gals over at Independent Women's Forum are furious. May Mailman, I mean, women who have fought so long to protect women's rights and to gain equality are furious over what came down yesterday, where I guess now, after the rules that came down, if you accept any federal money in any educational institution, you have to let a boy who's gender confused and thinks he's a girl into the girl's bathroom. Is that a correct read on those Title IX rules?
Yeah, unfortunately it is, Randy. Largely, this is a radical rewrite of essentially how the federal government will understand gender and gender identity. My colleague Sarah Perry has done a lot of excellent work on this specific issue. She has been pushing back aggressively against this anticipated rewrite. You know, it's unfortunate this rewrite has been a long time coming. Many suspected the Biden administration was going to try to push it out before, you know, the election in an effort to, I suppose, pander to the Democratic base. And it seems like that's exactly what happened. But look, this ruling is going to be absolutely devastating for women across a variety of instances, particularly in higher education. Women's sports will be absolutely devastated by this. You will see, as you said, probably the right of men now to use women-only facilities if the federal government goes through and actually implements this final rule. But thankfully, I don't think this is the final word on this rule. Lawsuits are likely to be filed, and because of the good work of my colleagues at Heritage, people like the Independence Women's Forum, and others, a lot of comments were filed during the rulemaking process that hopefully will give some ammunition to those who will challenge this rule as it's being implemented.
Well, you know, Zach, what's really worrisome about this is I was reading the Washington Post, because you do have to look at what the other side says. You don't want to be in the conservative echo chamber, all the time and see what others. The Washington Post and other liberal outlets are trying to excuse this away, saying that they've sort of left the athletic part of this untouched because they're deferring some comment on that. But as I understand it, there's almost three. I don't know what you think and your folks are saying, but I'm reading that like almost 36 times they mention locker rooms and access to locker rooms. So the last time I checked, Zach, locker rooms are an integral part of the athletic experience. So, I mean, but it's almost like you got to fact check what the Washington Post is saying, because they're trying to excuse this away, and as though athletics are still somehow protected, depending on how the individual institution wants to parse this issue. I think it's disingenuous.
Well, I think that's right, Randy, and I'm not shocked to see the Washington Post putting forward disingenuous information. But look, I think particularly when you consider this new rule in light of the past practices of the Biden HHS, when you consider it in light of some of the cases that the Biden Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department have pursued, I think it becomes very obvious that this is going to be implemented in a very radical, very harmful to women way, and that's obviously a very unfortunate thing for women and really for us as a country.
Now, the other element of this that hasn't gotten a lot of press, and this just came down on a Friday dump yesterday. I mean, that tells you a lot. I think I'm thinking from a policy perspective, this is a disaster for women. On the other hand, politically, for the conservative movement in this election cycle, I think it could be a good thing. I think a lot of those suburban moms that may have flipped from Trump in 16 to Biden in 20 may have second thoughts when they look at their daughters who have worked so hard to, whatever, to track and field, whatever sport they're in, basketball, you name it, to then, swimming, to then risk having to not only undress, and share a locker room with a guy, but then compete against and potentially get injured by a man or a boy participating with them. I'm thinking some of those so-called suburban soccer mom gals that were are going to be a pivotal part, they may have second thoughts about going for old Joe. I mean, irrespective of what they think about Donald Trump's demeanor. Is that? I think politically this could actually backfire on Joe Biden. I don't know.
Well, I think if you talk to people really across the ideological spectrum, many are very troubled by this development of men participating in women's sports, particularly at the college and high school level. And, if you talk to, as you said, kind of the suburban soccer moms, if you talk to fathers of many different political persuasions, they will tell you, obviously, they are deeply, deeply uncomfortable with and troubled by the idea of men sharing locker rooms with their daughters, their wives. And so to see this, being forced upon the American people kind of at the 11th hour in this way, as you said, in a Friday night dump, it's a very troubling thing. But I do think you are right, Randy. Many Americans of all political persuasions are not buying into this radical gender identity effort that the Biden administration and others are pushing so aggressively.
I think the other slimy aspect of this that hasn't gotten much play is that apparently, and again, you're the legal scholar here, I'm not, but apparently students will lose their right. And I think we're talking mainly about male students on campus. They're the ones that get accused of sexual impropriety, sexual assault more often than women. Let's be honest about it. Apparently, this is really eroding, if not eliminating, due process rights of men that may be convicted or may be accused on campus of, sexual assault, et cetera, et cetera. Can you unpack that a little bit from what you know? I know that the rules are just fresh, but apparently the schools will be required to use the preponderance of evidence standard and that there really isn't a cross-examination right. What does all this mean?
Yeah, so look, this is something that came up initially during the Obama administration. It was put forward by what's known as a Dear Colleague letter, basically a letter to universities and school administrations about how the administration is interpreting certain regulations and rules. And it's exactly what you said, Randy. Essentially, if a student is accused of sexual misconduct, which could be a violation of Title IX and imperil a university and their federal funding and that sort of thing, that if someone is accused, they get kind of a kangaroo court process, to be perfectly honest with you. You will hear instances of students being accused. They don't get to confront the accuser. They don't get to call witnesses. They don't get kind of those hallmarks of due process that we all, cherish and value so much. Now, during the Trump administration, many of those rules were rolled back, and unfortunately, it looks like the Biden administration is now moving away from those basic due process requirements, essentially arguing that somehow requiring someone who accuses someone of sexual assault requiring them to be confronted by that individual, to allow the individual accused to, potentially cross-examine that person. All of those things, no longer look like they'll have a place in many of these administrative type hearings.
Yeah, and we have seen men that have been, their lives have been ruined. I think of the Duke soccer team, what a travesty that was. And of course, no one wants to in any way, shape, or form allow sexual predators to get off the hook. But my God, there has to be some due process when such a serious allegation is made. I don't know. This is just insanity. Well, of course, Zach is not only the Heritage's SCOTUS guy and go-to, and is a host of the SCOTUS 101 podcast and author of a book that has gotten rave reviews by Bill Barr, Andy McCarthy, Edwin Meese, called Rogue Prosecutors. But I wanted to break down with you the SCOTUS thing and get back to the arguments this week. And let me play for you, Zach, what happened when Neil Gorsuch was questioning the Solicitor General. This was the juiciest clip of the week. I know you've heard it, but I want the audience to hear it. And then we can talk about it. Here's Neil Gorsuch on the obstruction case for the J6, Mr. Fisher. Here we go.
So what does that mean for the breadth of this statute? Would a sit-in that disrupts a trial or access to a federal courthouse qualify? Would a heckler in today's audience qualify, or at the State of the Union address? Would pulling a fire alarm before a vote qualify for 20 years in federal prison?
Man, he was talking about the Kavanaugh hearing. He was talking about Jamal Bowman pulling. I don't know. I think there's a role. If he ever wants to retire, Zach, I think there's a great opportunity in talk radio for Neil Gorsuch. What happened during those arguments, and what does it mean?
Well, Randy, I'll have to look over my shoulder. Maybe you can replace me with Justice Gorsuch if he's ever interested. Although he is not good on some of the gender identity stuff, as we saw in Boston.
No,
unfortunately,
no, he is not. He is not. No.
But look, you were spot on. This was a great kind of cross-examination type questioning by Justice Gorsuch of Elizabeth Prelogar, who's the Solicitor General for the United States, who argues cases before the Supreme Court for the U.S. But look, I think his questions really cut to the heart of the hypocrisy of many of these prosecutions of these January 6th defendants. And certainly, they're facing very serious charges in many instances, essentially charged with obstructing and interrupting an official proceeding of Congress. But as Justice Gorsuch, I think, was subtly and not so subtly making the point, look, many people have engaged in equally as problematic conduct. And yet, because they were either Democrats or supporting left-leaning causes, they were not charged with these very serious charges. They either received a slap on the wrist, a citation essentially, a misdemeanor-type charge, or they weren't really prosecuted at all. And so to see many of these defendants now facing these charges under a very expansive interpretation of this statute, I think is very troubling to very many people. And, what's interesting, Randy, is this Fisher case, I think has flown a little bit under the radar for many people this term, but it may have very wide-ranging implications because not only could it potentially impact the prosecution of many January 6th defendants, but it could also impact the prosecution of Donald Trump. If the court rules in favor of Mr. Fisher, several of the counts that Jack Smith has brought against Donald Trump would potentially be no longer valid as a result of this decision. But
this is really, I've found this so fascinating, Zach, and I try to be an amateur law student, and you don't usually give me high marks, but I think I'll try again. Okay, I'm looking at U.S. Code 1512, subsection C, subsection 2. Here it is. Whoever corruptly, 1, alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record document, or here's number 2. Whoever corruptly otherwise obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 20 years. Okay, so Zach, we've been seeing, let me give you a hypothetical. I mean, this is sort of down the Gorsuch rabbit hole, but okay, we had pro-Palestinian protesters block the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's theoretically say that someone lives in San Francisco and was trying to go to Oakland or vice versa, and they were on the city council and they couldn't get to a meeting. Wouldn't we theoretically be able, under this same application of this law, be able to say that those Palestinian protesters should be charged and held under solitary confinement, just as the people are in the J6 issue? After all, you obstructed a city council meeting, or is it only federal? But you know what I'm saying here. I mean, it seems like you could apply this to anyone in any case that obstructs a, quote, official proceeding. No?
Now, Randy, you always get gold stars from me for your your amateur lawyering, and I think this shows the perfect reason, because you're right. Certainly, I think this would broadly apply to federal proceedings. So maybe I'd change your hypo a little and say somebody was trying to get to federal court for jury service, and they couldn't do it as a result of that.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature. Maybe a judge is trying to get to the courthouse to preside over court. But look, I think we have to go back to understand why this law was passed in the first place and how far afield it's being used now. This was a law that was passed in the wake of the Enron scandal. If you remember, after Enron kind of went belly up, many of the people who worked there shredded documents, took steps to purposefully obstruct the investigation into the fraud that had taken place, and really didn't cooperate with investigators and tried to purposefully derail the investigation. And so this law was passed to try to combat that type of situation. So now to see a law that was originally designed to combat essentially, purposely obstructing an investigation, purposely obstructing, an official kind of investigatory proceeding into what happened, to now being applied in these very new and novel circumstances. I think that's what Justice Gorsuch was getting at. Under the government's interpretation of this statute, it could be applied in a very expansive, very capacious way that could potentially sweep in broad swaths of conduct that's really troubling in any way you think about it, but it's particularly troubling when you consider the selective way the government is now using that statute under this expansive interpretation.
Okay, so I get a C- because I was applying this to any proceeding, but it's about any official or federal proceeding. But you're right. I mean, a judge or a juror trying to get to a courthouse. I mean, it could apply. The hypocrisy is just so rotten fish stinky. It's just unbelievable. Okay, finally, the juror selection is now over with the Trump trial in Manhattan. I'm surprised that there's two attorneys in the juror box. I think that seems unusual to me. From what you know about A, the process, and B, the result, and who's sitting in that juror box, what are your thoughts as the opening arguments unfold on Monday?
Well, we've said it before, Randy. This is really an unprecedented, historic situation in a lot of ways. We've never obviously had a former president who's been criminally prosecuted. We've never had a leading candidate for the presidency who is facing criminal prosecution. And so as a country, we are in uncharted territory. Now, I think Donald Trump and his legal team are probably concerned whether or not they can get a fair trial there in Lower Manhattan. We've seen the statistics from the 2020 election where only a very small percentage of people are registered Republicans or claim to have voted for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. And so, considering the high-profile nature of this case, considering the politically charged, politics and emotions involved, this jury selection actually moved at a very quick pace. Frankly, I suspected it might take a little bit longer than it actually did, but they have the requisite number of jurors in the box. They have the requisite number of alternatives, and so it looks like we will hear opening statements on Monday. But The other thing I'll mention quickly, if I can, Randy, Donald Trump, he often comes out and talks to reporters before and after the trial proceedings, and he made a very good point the other day, I thought. He said that every day that he's required to sit in that Manhattan courtroom is a day that he can't be out on the campaign trail, engaging in, the politics that we expect a leading presidential candidate to do. And I think that's a very important point, and an important point to recognize that, regardless of the outcome of this trial, this is incredibly time intensive, it's incredibly resource intensive, and it's diverting attention that Trump and his team otherwise would be devoting to campaigning to regain the presidency.
Look, I don't think it's unfair to say that the Democrat machine, through weaponization of the judicial system at local and at federal levels, I think they're willfully trying to destroy this man personally, physically, financially, psychologically, certainly politically. I mean, can you imagine the strain? I mean, I can't believe this guy's stamina and resilience. While I've had my problems with his foul mouth up on the stump and the way he, is not loyal to people, I've got problems with him. I mean, to see this willful attack in many ways, other than politically, on this guy, that gets to me, Zach, and I think it's getting to a lot of people because of the unprecedented nature of it, but it's amazing to see him. I mean, he goes down to the bodega and he's getting the kids and their parents are like, "Go, Trump." It's an amazing spectacle to watch, and we'll be following it with you as we move along through the season. Hey, thanks for spending extra time with me early on this Saturday morning, but we covered a lot of ground. I appreciate it. And I'll study up for our next exam, so I'll do better, okay?
Well, I look forward to it, Randy. Always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for having me on this morning.
Yeah, and I want to invite everyone. By the way, Zach, I don't know, I guess you've authorized some kind of a sale, because right now there's a little sale on the book, on your Rogue Prosecutors book, on Kindle, on the Kindle version on Amazon. I'm just saying, if you guys haven't read it, you have. I've got it, and I love it. It's a fabulous book. So you and Cully Stimson did a great job on that, and I hope folks will pick it up. Thanks, Zach Smith. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy. Take care.
All right, you too. There he is. Boy, lots to talk about, huh? Hey, when we come back, I like to play the common man or the common woman letting the progressive left have it. We'll bring that to you when we come back on the Randy Tobler Show. Stay tuned.
Live and local.
Well, here's what's on my mind. I think I got the solution to immigration.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
What makes a barbecue champion? It's skill, it's swagger, it's choice meats, superior spices, and sauces. But it starts with the simplest cooking fuel, Rockwood Lump Charcoal, made of 100% pure Missouri oak, hickory, and maple. It's premium charcoal that lights quick and burns hot, with a rich wood aroma that complements the natural flavors of meats. And because it's free from chemicals and impurities, it's more responsive for superior temperature control. What makes a barbecue champion? Rockwood Charcoal. Smoke the competition. Visit rockwoodcharcoal.com for tips and stores near you.
Honesty, integrity, humility, purpose. We're looking for people that share these values. As an officer in the Springfield, Missouri Police Department, you'll train in a state-of-the-art facility, learn special skills, and most importantly, learn that being humble through it all builds a better community. Our next training academy starts soon. Work hard and dedicate yourself to the craft, and I promise you'll have some amazing opportunities. Visit gospd.com for more information. That's gospd.com. Brought to you by the Springfield, Missouri Police Department.
Steph's Pizza is on the move to Lake St. Louis. That's right, you can now get the legendary Steph's Pizza and Pasta in Lake St. Louis, 111 Pond Fort Trail. Steph's Pizza, where Mondays you get a large pizza for the price of a small, and it just got more convenient for pickup or delivery in Lake St. Louis. Steph's Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley on Long Road, in St. Peters on Jungerman, and now in Lake St. Louis at 111 Pond Fort Trail. Check them out at stephspizza.com. Tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fenceworks. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fenceworks, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting a fence or deck that not only meets your needs, but exceeds your expectations. Satisfaction means working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. Satisfaction means having confidence in the quality of your new fence or deck, knowing that it was built with the best of materials and workmanship. STL FenceWorks, your satisfaction is our passion. And for me, satisfaction is knowing that providing for your family is how I provide for mine. Visit STLFenceworks.com and experience the satisfaction in making your backyard dreams into a reality.
Larry Connors, USA.
Hunter Biden and his artwork.
Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words. What a coward.
The art gallerist apparently claimed that one of Hunter's financial backers purchased most of his paintings for $875,000. What's this? Oh, it's a scribble, but really it's a man walking into his future and seeing his past at the same time.
You are the epitome of white privilege.
They were laundering money, and he had all of his friends coming forward to help him out.
Larry Connors, weeknights at 6 on News Talk STL.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Thank God for the daylight. I spent a long time in the dark. Felt good saying goodbye. Waking up to a brand new heart. And if you're sleeping like I used to be in a grave that holds
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Well, you know, we the people are increasingly upset and insulted and can't take it anymore. You know, you think of that old movie Network. Remember when the anchor said, "I'm mad as you know what? Heck." I won't use the other word. I'm mad as heck and I can't take it anymore. That's the way an increasing number of Americans who don't traditionally wear MAGA hats, who don't traditionally show up at Trump rallies, who don't traditionally, send their kids to the conservative Liberty University, okay? Hillsdale. So I want to paint a word picture for you. The other day in Chicago, where, of course, the immigrants are over, the invaders are overrunning the city. It's already in financial trouble. There's crime is rampant there. They're draining the coffers like they have in New York City and in Denver and everywhere else. Picture this. Mayor Brandon Johnson, council members are at a meeting, and during the public comment, a woman stands up, and she's an urban inner city Chicago black woman with a MAGA hat on. And she describes what happened to a friend of hers or to someone in the neighborhood in those cities, in that city. And here's the beginning of this discussion. We're going to break it down for you. Here it is.
P. Ray of the 37th Ward. Chicago Red is our organization. Because we started this session with a prayer, I want to start my comment with the scripture. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, "But if any provide not for his own, and specifically for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." So I want to talk to y'all today about not going to hell.
So she quotes scripture and saying, you got to take care of your own or you're going to go to hell. And I'm going to tell you all how not to go to hell. That's how it starts. And then she tells a story of a woman who, her daughter, they're in the living room. Her daughter gets shot by a stray bullet and dies and bleeds out in front of her. And this woman, they had lived in this house, this building for 40 years. And I think, she tells the story of this. This woman then gets hooked on drugs because wearing her woman in jail, she gets hooked on drugs. She gets in jail for possession, wearing her daughter's rest in peace, a sweater or a T-shirt, and she's behind you. So this is someone in the neighborhood. And here she talks about where the opioid settlement money should have gone rather than to migrants. Play it.
I am here on behalf of the Jones family, on behalf of the 37th Ward, on behalf of Black Chicago, on behalf of the entire city to ask you all to vote no and put that money back in the opioid settlement fund. We need that money in my neighborhood. We need that on my block. That woman should not be at Cook County Jail because she's grieving over a random act of violence that caused her to lose her child in front of her face when the city of Chicago has millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to give to people who ain't paid a dime into the tax base.
All right, now this is a discussion about these invaders. Think about it. These people are invading these cities, taking money away from the programs that would be used to protect these drug-infested enclaves in the inner city. And they're taking money intended for that and spending it on these invaders. I'm getting worked up just thinking about it. Well, she got worked up a little bit more because she's paid taxes. Mrs. Jones, who's self-medicating and getting in jail for it, is behind bars. They paid their taxes. Take a listen.
We've been in my building for 52 years. We're about to pay some more taxes. The Jones family has been in their building for 45 years, paying taxes every year on time. So I'm asking y'all to use our tax money for our people. We need it. We got people leaning. We got people rocking. We got overdosing. We got pass out lines. You live on the west side, Mayor Johnson. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We need the
And here's the end of it, where she says, you know what? It's got to stop. We're bringing them in. We're paying their way. Listen to the end of it.
Chicago, we are the headquarters of the cartel, and everybody in here knows it. They selling more drugs than the law can allow, and y'all giving money back to them because they traffic those people up here, so we paying them going and coming. Absolutely not. We pay too much. It costs too much money to live in this city.
Well, there you go. And this is a red MAGA hat wearing inner city person. I think things are a-changing. When we come back, we talk to Todd Showalter. We'll see what he has to say about the goings on. You're listening to News Talk 1019 94.1. Stay tuned.
I spent a long time in the dark, felt good saying goodbye, waking up to a brand new heart. And if you're sleeping like I used to be, in a grave that holds you tight, there's a savior calling, promising a brand new life. He's saying, wake up, sleeper, open your eyes, oh sinner, arise, leave your past at the door. Wake up, sleeper, come to the light, Christ is alive, death don't live here anymore, death don't live here anymore. I bet you like that freedom, I bet you like your new name. Oh, welcome to the kingdom. Yeah, we all feel that way.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
There's a war going on. Not one more innocent life should be lost to Biden migrant crime.
1019 and 94.1.
I have it on all day at work.
I love the conversation.
News Talk STL.
Are you fed up with paying too much for lightning-fast doctor visits with too little information? Well, I was too, and decided to create an alternative. Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler here, asking you to take a look at no copay, no deductible visits with me and my team. That's Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Let's face it, the system's broken. No respect for your money or your time. So learn about a better way for your primary care. Schedule your discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com, shepherding you to medical freedom.
Did you know one of the best investments you can make? It's in yourself. At My Computer Career, in just a few months, you could start your new career in the high-demand, recession-resistant field of information technology. Isn't it time you invest in you and start a career in networking, cybersecurity, AI, or upskill to boost your current IT career? So, get the ROI you deserve at My Computer Career. No experience necessary. Start now at mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? A man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $110 per month. Level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, there are great rates available for you as well. Call Term Busters for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, call Term Busters. 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate for preferred non-tobacco rate class. Exam required to qualify.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Next, between Iran and Israel, revealing deeper insights into both militaries. BBC correspondent Will Vernon reports it's clear that Israel's is far superior.
The fear in the West is that a cycle of retaliation between Israel and Iran could ignite a wider war. There is hope that the limited nature of the Israeli attack will allow the Iranians to walk away from any further response. Officials in Tehran have been downplaying the significance of Israel's strike. But tensions are running high in the Middle East, and diplomats will be working hard behind the scenes on de-escalation. The key question now, what will these two well-armed adversaries do next?
That is BBC's Will Vernon reporting. Former Senator Jim Talent says Vladimir Putin has already failed in his bid to strengthen his position in Eastern Europe by dividing NATO over the invasion of Ukraine.
Well, of course, what's happened is Finland and Sweden are now in NATO. NATO responded with greater unity than I'm certain he expected it to happen.
And Talent says it's now vital the West strengthen and enforce Putin's loss. The Senate votes today on more financial aid for Ukraine. Another rough week on Wall Street.
The worst week for big technology stocks since the COVID crash in 2020 dragged Wall Street across the finish line of another losing week. The S&P 500 fell 0.9% Friday to close out its third straight losing week. The Nasdaq tumbled 2%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was an outlier and rose 0.6%. Supermicro Computer lost more than a fifth of its value. NVIDIA was the single heaviest weight on the S&P 500. Helping to limit the market's losses was American Express, which rose after reporting stronger than expected profit for its latest quarter. Fifth Third Bancorp also rose after it likewise topped expectations. Damian Troisi, New York.
More from townhall.com.
We all know that aches and pains come with simply getting older, but it doesn't mean you have to accept it. That's why I want to tell you about a special lady, Leah from Ohio, and her Relief Factor story. One Sunday, Leah was sitting on the couch in so much pain she was literally in tears. That's when she decided to try Relief Factor. Just 8 days later, she found relief, and she continued to get better and better. To quote her, she said, "I am truly amazed at this product. Like me, who after 9, almost 10 years, almost a decade of low back pain, lost that pain thanks to Relief Factor. If you're living with aches and pains, see how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you feel and live better every day. Get the 3-week quick starter pack at relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. It all comes with the feel better or your money back guarantee. That number, 1-800-4RELIEF, relieffactor.com.
BNSF railway attorneys in court.
The lawyers told Montana that the railroad should not.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Mark McCloskey here. Let me tell you about my friend Ian McFarland and his company Modern Weapons Systems. They sell the newest top-tier weapons found on current movies, TV shows, and video games. They also carry a full line of NFA items such as suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns. Plus, they offer the best laser engraving services in town. If you're looking for the best value and family-friendly service for all your gun needs in Greater St. Louis area, visit Ian and his team at Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton. Visit them online at modernweaponsystems.com or call at 314-252-0486.
Caring for a loved one is stressful. It's an emotional time, and we want our loved ones to get the quality of care they deserve. But the cost of long-term care is expensive. In the St. Louis area, it could be $60,000, $70,000, or even over $100,000. Can your savings handle this added expense? Fortunately, News Talk STL listeners have an expert right here. Financial strategist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management shows families tax-efficient strategies to fund care needs. Whether planning in advance, have health concerns, or living in a care community today, solutions exist to fund the quality of care you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Visit SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Alphi LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
Danny Define here, host of the all-new show, The Next Gen, with me, Danny Define. We're going to cover all the hard-hitting topics on this show, from national headlines to things happening right here in St. Louis.
Next Gen with Danny Define.
Join me every Sunday at 10 p.m. right here on News Talk STL.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Hey, it looks like you like to get up early, so Monday through Friday, listen to me from 5:30 to 9. Mike Ferguson here, and you are listening to The Randy Tobler Show right here on News Talk STL.
Well, thank you, Mike. And, I can't catch the show every morning, but when I listen to the podcast, I catch the show. And you can catch, of course, the podcast and listen to Mike and the gang every day here on News Talk STL 101.9 94.1. And you can also listen to Todd Showalter on the Right Mind Show. We're not sure if that's apt. Todd, we're not sure if that's aptly mine, because looking at some of your cartoons, and I mean this with all great admiration, I'm not sure if you're in your right mind, but that's what takes a creative mind. It's always fun. Just kidding.
That's the irony of it.
Yeah.
They think it's going to be like, all cerebral and deep, but then we go the other way with just, pure craziness. Yeah.
My kids tell me that whether they're listening to your show or looking at your cartoons or listening to our show, or to be in the business of communications and parody, and God, is there so much to parody and have fun with these days politically, you have to be a little crazy, right? Because you have to think things in a different way than most people think things. And I think that's what's so fun about looking at your work, not only, of course, through your website and your cartoon work, but your on-air work as well. You have to be a little bit out there, a little bit different.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I mean, I try to identify with my audience, and so, I like to think that, the readers and the audience are as crazy as I am, and, we're one big dysfunctional family. And that's why we call it, the tagline is we put the fun in our dysfunctional world, but it's pretty much our dysfunctional family. Yeah, because we're all crazy.
Yeah, do you have the kind of mind that sort of is a stream of consciousness? Because I would think with your creative wiles, you just probably have this ticker tape of ideas, and once in a while they drop into your consciousness, and it turns into a cartoon, right?
Well, yeah, but it's so, like I've said before, it's just like a stream of absurdity that we live in. I mean, it's pretty much just being an observer. I mean, so I'm just taking notes. It's not so much, creating anymore. Yeah. I mean, just every day, it's just, a nonstop, all-you-can-eat buffet of stupidity. And it's really, again, I'm the messenger at this point.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I wanted you to try to help me understand something. Clip 8 is something that you've heard it. I'm sure. I don't know if you're going to address it today, but it's been all over this week. Speaking in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden talked about his Uncle Bozie and what happened to his Uncle Bozie in a plane way back when in the war. And here's a little bit of it.
And my uncle, they called him Ambrose, Ambrosi, they called him Bozie. My Uncle Bozie was a hell of an athlete, they tell me, when he was a kid. And he became an Army Air Corps before the Air Force came along. He flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance over war zones. He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. And
now, I mean, you can laugh.
I can't keep
you can laugh, Todd, but I mean, the guy's crazy, right? I mean, the guy is crazy, and he's the leader of the free world, right? What the heck's going on?
Well, I know, and the funny thing is, this shows you why our media is so left-wing, because they play that clip, but they left out the part where the cannibals actually ate Joe's brain for dessert. Okay, and that's why that's why he is the way he is right now. I mean, the guy. Seriously, I've listened to this and I thought, okay, I'm going to really keep a straight face and see what type of little nuggets I can pull out of it. I can't. I seriously, I burst out laughing every time I hear it, because the best part is, it wasn't just some random thing that he said once. I mean, he did it again, and I think people had warned him that, hey, don't, just let's lay off the Uncle Bozie story, okay? And none of this stuff was true. I mean, I don't know if you heard about it, because not only was Uncle Bozie not eaten by cannibals, but Uncle Bozie never went down in New Guinea or was flying a single-engine plane or any of that. All that was debunked, and even the military came out and said, no, poor Uncle Bozie, he went down in the Pacific Ocean and all this stuff. And, so he's totally discrediting poor old Uncle Bozie's character and everything. I mean, if I went down with my squadron with the Air Force in the ocean, I wouldn't want, my nephew, who's crazier than anybody, years later saying that I was, some cannibal's dinner. I mean, I don't know. Show Uncle Bozie some respect, Joe.
It's just, you can't make this stuff. Okay, now, Jerome, pull up clip 1 here, because turning to a more serious side, Todd.
Oh, no.
We're seeing, I know, once in a while I need to reel you back into reality here. This is a clip of Biden talking about how Donald Trump would get us into a war. Just take a listen to this and think about the absurdity and the hypocrisy of this guy's rhetoric. Go ahead, play it.
The world has changed because of what Trump has done. And the American people, including independents and some Republicans, know how bad he is, know how much he's misrepresented, know how he's getting close to getting us in a war. I said, as the walls close in on this man, I'm worried he's going to get us to war in Iran. Unfortunately, I may have been right. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot at stake in this election.
Yeah.
So Todd, if I got this right, maybe when Biden is getting us into a war in Iran, like everything else, like the border, like the economy, like law and order, it's always Donald Trump's fault, right? Is that the way I'm reading this?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they came out with it this morning yet, but apparently the extinction of the dinosaurs was Donald Trump's fault, too. I think they're going to come out with that. And the sinking of the Titanic, I think it wasn't actually an iceberg that the Titanic hit. It was actually Donald Trump, and he sank the Titanic. So everything, according not only to Joe and the Democrats, but everything is Donald Trump's fault. I mean, anything bad, that is. And so, does that, and that's just, even playing that clip, I mean, that just shows you the projection. I mean, basically, everything that they've said bad that the right, the conservatives, and Donald Trump are going to do or have done, the left and Joe, they've gone out and actually done it. So they basically predicted everything that's going to happen. So I mean, and then taking the bad parts and then just saying, well, no, that's Donald Trump's fault. I'm going to do that, Randy. I mean, from now on, if I get a speeding ticket, I say I wasn't driving. It was Donald Trump. No, you can't give me a ticket. No, he's hiding under the seat. Trust me. No, it's total absurdity. And there's still people out there though that I'm not saying. Yesterday, I've got to say, I'll text this to you. Again, I had a cartoon about Joe on the he was in therapy or something, and I don't know, he was saying some ridiculous thing, and said it was about the economy. And I have people that yesterday sent me messages that I'm proudly printing out and going to put on my refrigerator, explaining to me, like, calling me every name in the book. The economy is great. Joe Biden's our best president ever. How can you say the economy is bad? This is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with these people living in a delusional world. And you talk about me talking to my audience is crazy. Well, Joe's delusional, and the people that follow him are delusional. It's unbelievable that they there's no reality anymore.
Well, and that's the thing. I would like to think, Todd, that they're delusional, but what I'm worried about increasingly, when you you drive around the city, I drive around where I live and in St. Louis when I visit back again, and I see the restaurant and the entertainment venues, parking lots are full. I see the retail outlets, parking lots are full. And I can't help but think that maybe, in a political and economic reality sense, people are delusional, but maybe not so. I mean, when you're looking at a government led by progressives who will do anything for power, including forgiving student loans where contracts were signed, obligations were made, and expected to be repaid, are we developing a mentality in this country where, hey, carpe diem, live for today, que sera, que sera. I don't really give a flip about my future. I know the government's going to bail me out because I see them bailing out everyone else around me. Could we be to that point in the United Socialist States of America?
I think so. Well, yeah, I think that's really what they're pushing. I mean, that is what they're pushing. And it's basically, and that's what concerns me. I talk about, future generations. I mean, you look at all the money, you look at trillions and trillions of dollars. What is it? Like every 100 days, it's another extra $1 trillion in debt or something like that. And it's a total disregard, not only living for yourself and in the day, which is and there's no spiritual backbone anymore either. I mean, it's all just me, me, me. And I think this whole the whole psyche that's being projected by the left, and you mentioned the progressives, encourages that. And when you can just think for yourself so selfishly and not think about future generations, that's not only bad politics, that's immoral. And it's a shame, and that's why I think we just need an entire overhaul. Now, they obviously don't want it, because obviously anytime that their God, I mean, they're the ones who follow what we're going to do. We'll give you your instant gratification. And those are the type of people that we're dealing with, which are basically, what type of people are those besides being selfish? They're children. I mean, the progressives are basically spoiled children. Yeah. And, but unfortunately, we're allowing them to call all the shots. It's when we finally say, look, I mean, you're not calling the shots anymore. The big boys the parents are going to take care of this now. That's when things will change. But right now, we're afraid to do anything. We're just letting them do whatever they want, and we've got to make it stop.
Well, you're right. I mean, look what's going on in our college campuses. I mean, we've got people setting up basically encampments and shouting death to America. And I don't hear the hue and cry that we used to hear, which was, hey, love it or leave it. You may not like everything about America, but this is the greatest society that the planet has ever or will ever see in terms of our founding documents and the values that we have previously lived by. And they're getting away with it. The media is giving them all the free press they want. And where is the hue and cry to say, whoa, 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 whoa? Were it not for the values of this country, you wouldn't be able to sit there, you young skull full of mush, and diss this country. I mean, it's been turned on its head. And unless we turn it around, I don't know, brother. I'm worried for the future.
Well, one of the problems with that, and I've got a frequent guest on my show, we call him Professor Jim. He's a conservative college professor in liberal California, and he's kind of our inside guy on this topic. And you have all this foreign money that's coming in from Saudi Arabia, China, you name it. I mean, it's basically, those are the main ones, that in India, that are coming into our universities. And they're saying, we're going to give you all this money, but there's a string attached. There's a condition. You're going to teach not only, curriculum, but also, our ways, what we believe, thoughts, things like that. Otherwise, you can't have the money. So you have, decades. It wasn't just yesterday or the day before. I mean, you have decades of this conditioning going on to, if you want these huge checks, you're going to do things our way. And that's the universities have been bought, large and small. So we're sending our kids basically to be indoctrinated. And that's exactly what's happening because these foreign entities own it. And to get to your point about, love it or leave it, if I have a great party, a wonderful party, I invite you over, invite the neighbors over, but I have this one jerk that comes over and tells me, you need to rearrange the furniture. You need to make this I don't like what you're serving for dinner. I want it this way. I'm going to tell that guy to get the hell out. Okay, if you don't like my party, go home. All right. I'm not going to say, let's change everything for Larry here that's not having a good time. No, I say, get the hell out and go home. Okay. That's what we've got to do here. If you don't like it, it's the best country in the world, the greatest country in the world. And if you don't like it, go home. Nobody's making you stay. Leave.
Wait a minute. Hang on, Todd. Wait a minute. This interview is going very well did I just hear you say, if you invite me to a party and you're serving vodka martinis, but I like gin martinis, you're going to tell me to go home? Because I do like gin martinis. Could we still get along?
I don't drink, Randy. If you're going to come to my place, you're not going to get anything. And then
brother.
I'm going to say, if you want your vodka martini, you can go to my neighbor up the street. But that's what it is. And I'm not saying I have great parties, but it's my party. You came over. So.
All right. Hey, we got to run, and I know you got to get ready for your show, which airs, of course, every Saturday here on News Talk STL 101.9 94.1. What's on today on the right show?
Oh, well, it's more craziness and mayhem. We actually have a New York City reporter, New York City, that she's coming in. She did a piece on the Rockwood School District on how they're censoring.
Oh, good.
Censoring the web and the internet inside the schools, which actually has a different type of a twist to it than I expected. And we got all kinds of other fun and mayhem, and we throw water balloons at cars and things like that. So yeah, it's a good time.
Sounds fun. Todd Showalter, nationally syndicated cartoonist and host of the Right Mind Show here on News Talk STL 101.9. Hey, I always enjoy the conversation, and with all the absurdity and the threat to our very existence, it's always fun to yuck it up a little bit and get your analysis. Thanks, Todd. We'll be listening.
Thank you, Ray. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right, there he is, Todd Showalter. And boy, I tell you, if you don't laugh, you'd be crying, right? Isn't that the case? When we come back, I have another Biden bite for you. We like to tee those up once in a while. And don't forget, later on, 7:45, we'll be talking to Virginia Kruta. At 8:06, don't miss Senator Jim Talent to break down what's going on in Iran and Israel and the tensions in the Middle East. And Bob Onder talking about this initiative petition legalizing abortion till the day of birth and how the pushback against it is being smeared by the St. Louis most detached. Lots coming up here on the program. Stay tuned, please.
Somebody with a hurt that I could have helped. Somebody with a hand that I could have held when I just
Agree.
I think conservatives have it wrong.
Or disagree.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The conversation happens here.
I agree with you on Trump. I'm shaking my head. I'm one of your liberal Democratic listeners, and I don't get why any of this even matters.
Because your voice matters.
Everybody told him he couldn't do it. And then he did do it. That's what you got to do. You got to play hardball.
I want to hear what people think and be able to talk about it.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
St. Louis is proud to be a baseball town and more recently a soccer town. On Friday, May 3rd, the Birds on the Bat host the Chicago White Sox. And that night, 25,000 fans 16 and older will take home a Cardinals soccer jersey presented by Purina. That's Friday, May 3rd, the Cardinals, the White Sox, and the exclusive soccer jersey giveaway. For tickets or more info, visit cardinals.com/promotion.
This is Giovanni Gallegos. Get your tickets at cardinals.com.
Calling all bobblehead collectors and animal lovers. This is one you won't want to miss. Join us at the ballpark on Saturday, May 4th, when the Cardinals host the Chicago White Sox and the 19th annual Purina Pooches in the ballpark. That day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will receive a bobblehead of Adam Wainwright with his lovable retirement gift, his new pup Louie, courtesy of Purina. For full details, visit cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Adam Wainwright, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
If you just recently inherited a property and you're not sure what to do with it, maybe it needs a lot of work, but you know you need to get it sold, reach out today. 314-417-1000, 417-1000. My name's Chad Clayman with Clayman Real Estate, where we've been buying houses directly from the seller with no middleman involved for over 90 years. We're a family business and we help simplify the sale for folks that don't want to list the house on the market and have to deal with the entire sales process. And we specialize with people that just recently inherited a house. We're very familiar with the probate process, so if that is you, please reach out and we can simplify your sale today. 314-417-1000, 314-417-1000. And we've been doing it for over 90 years. So if you have a house that you'd like to sell, whether you inherited it or it needs work, please reach out as we can make you a simple, fair cash offer. 314-417-1000, 314-417-1000.
My friend, death is certain. Are you prepared? Larry Connors here. I don't want to scare you, but your funeral plans are an important conversation you need to have with your spouse, family, other loved ones. My friend Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial can help find you an affordable, final expense life insurance policy, regardless of your health condition. You could qualify up to $30,000 of lifetime coverage. Life insurance plans with Senior Memorial also offer living benefits towards hearing and diabetic supplies, access to a 24-hour teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones. Call my friend Benjamin at Senior Memorial and discover your legacy at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
This hour of the Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
I tell you, I get so incensed when I see government investigating government and excusing away government excess and government abuse and government tyranny or government excess spending. It's just so sad. It's sad on the one hand, it angers you on the other. Remember the FBI memo that came out and basically said the memo was generated by an FBI unit up there. I think it was in Virginia, and it basically directed FBI agents to, quote, find a link between racially motivated violent extremists and any specific religion or political affiliation, which then led to the investigation of traditional and the naming of traditional Catholic, parishes and organizations as being potential terrorists. Remember that? Well, isn't it wonderful to know? I just feel so reassured. And I'm not Catholic, but I know many, 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 many good Catholics. Many of you are good Catholics who were just incensed about this abuse, this weaponization of of the DOJ. Now we have a 120-day review handled by, wait for it, the Justice Department, investigating one of its own units, the FBI. And Inspector General Michael Horowitz sent a letter to members of Congress on Thursday basically saying that there was nothing there. The FBI's been exonerated. They said they didn't find any evidence of any abuse there. Everything's okay in FBI land. The same FBI who was involved in the Russian hoax, the same FBI who has gone after, people who have "Don't Tread on Me" bumper stickers or voted for Ron Paul, and they're on the list, the watch list. It's a sad day in our country. I mean, it seems like we're returning to the days of J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, I don't know any other way to do it. Though the investigation was appropriate, the Inspector General's review, according to this report, criticized aspects of the memo, warning about potential extremism. But it said it found that although there was no evidence of malicious intent or improper purpose, the memo failed to adhere to analytical tradecraft standards and evinced errors in professional judgment, blah, 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 blah. The point is, nothing's going to happen. No heads are going to roll. No meaningful oversight going forward on FBI abuse is going to happen because you have the government regulating the government. And you've seen it when the Congress, in its oversight capacity, tries to rein in some of these abuses. And first of all, they can't even get records half the time. Whether it's Merrick Garland or whether it's Christopher Wray, active investigation going on, we can't release those records to you. Well, the investigation could go on until the year 3000, right? I mean, it's just, there's something so wrong here with this. That's why you have congressional oversight over these agencies. I mean, it's what leads to, we've talked about it earlier. We'll talk about it with Virginia Kruta. I know she's going to be worked up over this when we talk to her in a few minutes. Because she's got, I believe, a daughter. She was on her way to, I think, was it a soccer game or something last week? Remember when she talked to us? This Title IX redefinition of sex. That's an executive branch overreach. They have taken the Title IX standards. They've now bastardized what was the most important advance forward for equality for women in sports and in other realms. That was, in that instance, it was about opportunities in sports and in education, that simply said you couldn't discriminate, on the basis of sex. Well, now you can't discriminate on the basis of gender identity because that's now been made tantamount to your sex. So I thought about it, and again, but getting back to the point, this is because this bureaucracy that ultimately is what the bureaucracy now is. Your legislature. They're the ones that actually make the rules that impact your life and define how you need to live, whether it's in your personal life, your IRS contributions, named taxes, your regulatory environment, if you're a business person. And that's what it is. Now, as I thought about it, though, there may be a lane here, Jerome. We've chronicled over the last few weeks. It's an ongoing theme. You've made, what did you say, 500 applications for employment. You've had, 3 interviews or 3 looks, but it never turned into an interview? Is that what I remember?
Yeah, just about, between Indeed and other job sourcing sites and actually applying to the company, just based purely on the rejection emails. It's right around 500 since the beginning of 2023.
Okay. Now, this may require a little bit of some makeup artistry on your point, but I'm thinking now that we've redefined, now that we're all neutered, there is no sex anymore. You can be a shapeshifter. You can be Jerome, the wrestler guy, big muscles, high testosterone. When the moment's right, yeah, when you apply for the bouncer gig, okay. But on the other hand, if you want a gig working for some woke company, excuse me, I repeat myself. I mean, that's redundant. Every company's woke now, except for News Talk STL.
I think why not just start identifying when you apply as a woman? Well, and then you'd get a look at least. You'd at least get an interview, because now we live in a world where your sex can be fluid. So you're not lying when you just say, hey, at the moment when I filled this out, I identified as female, and then you'll get an interview. I know you can't do that because you're a man of principle, but what would prevent a guy from doing that if you're desperate and you need to put food on the table?
Yeah, I was considering that as well. What's to tell somebody that when they fill out job applications, they don't identify as a disabled lesbian? I could learn to do some makeup, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Maybe I look good in
There you
heels,
go.
maybe not. I don't know. But
Yeah,
if
that's
that's the
it.
level that we're at right now, and it's crazy that we have all this science and we have years of genetics and we have biology, we have all these courses, and this is where we end up as a society. Is people
Yeah.
And I heard a phrase that I really liked. There are two sexes and zero genders and billions of personalities. And that's kind of how I feel the world, but why do we have to validate all these different personality disorders when, we have an entire lineage of feeling? I mean, there are diseases like chromosomally linked diseases that men cannot get because we have an X chromosome and vice versa that women can't get. And I guess it just doesn't matter anymore, right? Why does anything matter if we're just going to keep changing definitions and moving the goalpost?
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. And we joke about it, and you have to sort of make light of it and parody it. But I think that speaks to how absurd our times are, when there seems to be no absolute truths anymore, right? The truth is essentially what you want to make it. Well, think about this week with the NPR scandal that came out, right? A couple weeks ago, this Uri Berliner, who I think had been a senior editor at NPR for 27 years, a couple weeks ago on Barry Weiss's Free Press, Barry Weiss, who herself left the New York Times after there was a hue and uproar in the newsroom because they published a Tom Cotton op-ed a couple of years ago. So she then goes out and does the Free Press. She's sort of an ex-liberal newsroom person. I think she's more liberal leaning herself, but she said, look, we cannot have this absolutely imbalanced situation in the New York Times newsroom where where you said that the kids are leading the parade these days, or Todd was saying that, the kids are making the rules. Okay. So Uri Berliner calls out NPR and says, look, there's 87 Democrats, people who voted Democrat, and zero Republicans in the newsroom. That's not the NPR that I knew back in 1970 when it started. And after that, for several years, I mean, yeah, we always knew that, like most media, they were a little soft and squishy and crunchy and left-leaning, but they were not absolutely out to undo Donald Trump. Well, he blew the lid open on their agenda. He said after Donald Trump, in the Free Press article that he wrote, and then the interview he did with Barry Weiss, he basically said, look, I came to realize that it was one thing to criticize Donald Trump on the facts, but when the whole Russian hoax thing came out after 2016 election, we were all in. And Adam Schiff made 100 and some odd appearances on NPR. There was nowhere, no how begun to be balanced with guests and opinion on the other side. NPR, publicly funded, at least partially. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which also runs the propaganda broadcasting system, otherwise known as PBS. And so then he got suspended by the CEO, who is the most woke individual in the world. And Chris Rufo has gone back and captured some of her tweets. I mean, she talks about the patriarchy and about her white guilt. I mean, it doesn't come more progressive than this gal. Marr is her last name, Catherine Marr, like Bill Maher. Okay, so without meeting with him, she didn't even meet with him, and suspends him. And a day or two later, he resigned. He said, I can't do this. I can't be a part of this anymore. So I think just like Candace Owens, for all of her recently sort of anti-Semitic tendencies, I mean, she's gone a little off the rails. But I mean, she led the Blexit movement, right, where blacks are exiting the whole captivity of being under Democratic influence and the spell of the Democrats. I think you're seeing an increasing number of journalists that are saying, hey, I may be left leaning, but I don't want to be a part of this. This is not right. I mean, at some point, some of them still seem to have some scruples. That's good to see. And we as conservatives need to honor that and say, look, I'm going to at least give an ear to balanced, the other balanced side. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to do that at some point. But I mean, what happened at NPR, I think, was really seminal in where this country is going. And we've got to acknowledge it. We've got to call it out. And frankly, I think we should all stop paying if there was any way we could do some kind of a checkoff on our taxes that says, look, I don't want my, couple bucks going to NPR. I don't think that should happen, but it did anyway. Hey, well, let's step aside. Why don't we get aside a little early and see if we can maybe talk to Virginia, because we got a lot to talk about on this Title IX. I know women across the land that are hearing about what happened yesterday with the Department of Education's new rules, Title IX, absolutely tearing apart the equality on the sports field for women. We'll be talking about that with Virginia and other things when we come back here on the Randy Tobler Show. Thanks for being with us.
To feel the sun, always reaching, always climbing.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
To have a great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke.
News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion.
Hey, a friend of mine went over and saw Doctors Daniel Cusimano and Megan Dwyer over at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles on my recommendation, is very, very pleased with the work they're doing. I'm not surprised. Of course, I told him that's the way it's going to be. And I'm going to be heading out there for my semi-annual visit to see how things are going with the chompers, make sure that everything's in line. The last time I was out there, it was like, oh, there's a little cavity. Let's fill that. Okay, let's do that. And always get reminded about the fabulous basic dentistry that goes on at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles, as well as the advanced and always point of the spear cutting technology that is brought to your care at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. And we're going to be touching base, I know, with the good doctors very soon in studio and talk about a new technology that they're introducing there as well to keep the care in the office. You don't have to go everywhere. You don't have to come back for some great care that maybe would take a couple of visits in the past. So we'll be catching up on that. And you know what? When it comes back to respecting your pocketbook, I know that Dr. Dan, my friend, and Dr. Megan, my friend, and the great staff, they're always looking out to try to make it affordable to get great dental care, because we know how it cannot, in some realms, be so affordable, but they're very, very concerned about that for your dental health. Check them out. Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's advanceddentistrynow.com.
Hey, News Talk STL listeners, this is Kyla. When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. I went by myself to Planned Parenthood. The room was filled with tears and no one asked if I was sure about my decision. After I scheduled the abortion, a friend told me about Thrive, where I can get a free ultrasound. The Thrive advocate genuinely cared and provided me with resources to help with my choice. We did the ultrasound and I knew at that moment, this is my baby. I have to keep her. Me and my baby are cheering Thrive on for their 8th Give STL Day Championship on May 9th. Go to thrivealivestl.org right now to give the babies the loudest voice in the city again this year.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer. On News Talk STL. This is News Talk STL.
Welcome back to the program. A little technology note. We've been thrown off of Facebook, apparently. I don't know if it was something that Todd and I said or what. You never know how you're being censored. But you can still catch us on Rumble or Twitter or YouTube. And I don't know, Jerome's trying to work on that. Jerome, you don't see any black copters flying around the studio, do you? I mean, the drones, is something going on there? Everything okay?
Yeah, so far I don't hear any sirens, so I think I'm safe. I'm still trying to shred files just in case they come after me, though. But yeah, it looks like...
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
We got a notification from a couple of the stream viewers that moved over to Rumble, letting us know that for some reason... the Facebook stream was down, and what it looks like, and I can't say for certain, but it looks like it's a music strike, which is odd because we're a radio station that pays licensing fees to play music. So we're trying to get that resolved for anybody that likes to watch us on Facebook. But the good news is our YouTube is up, our Twitter is up, and Rumble's up. And if you don't have time to stay for the full show, as always, go to the Dr. Randy Tobler Spotify account where you can hear the entire hours uploaded every day by noon.
Including the Virginia Cruda segment, which is always one of the most popular conversations we have. Virginia, are you fuming this morning on the heels of the Friday night Title IX rules dump of yesterday? I cannot believe it.
Have you been watching my Twitter feed, apparently? Maybe
I figured you have.
Off Facebook.
Yeah.
They knew I was coming.
That's probably what it is, man. I mean, this is really, I caught a little bit of Megyn Kelly's podcast, and I mean, she was on fire. There were more F-bombs than Donald Trump says on the stuff. Well, he doesn't do F-bombs.
Well,
I mean, boy, oh boy.
That, but
no, I know you won't, but I mean, I wouldn't blame, I mean, look, I think that reflects the sentiment of a lot of women who are seeing an absolute explosion of what had been advances in women's equality since Title IX came along. What are your thoughts in the wake of this rule?
Well, my first thought was pretty simple. You know, my mom graduated high school in 1970, and so she played high school sports before Title IX. She played field hockey and she swam, and you know, people like her who were involved in women's sports before it was really even protected. They were the ones who paved the way for people like me to swim and to run and to, you know, play volleyball on a more even court, a more even playing field. And we're in a position where now if my daughter does not get that same even playing field, it will be because the Biden administration intentionally stripped it from her.
It's just amazing. Let me ask you about this, because we talked
generations. You know, one generation fought to get it, and then I had it, and now we've got, you know, it's interesting how quickly the third and fourth wave feminists who rave about the patriarchy usher it in intentionally.
I can't believe it. I got to ask you though, have you noticed the coverage on the left? I mean, I've seen it in the Washington Post, but there's others that are trying to sweep under the rug the reality of the rule. They don't specifically address athletics. And so the left, like the Post and others, the Washington Compost,
they're saying, well, they don't, they're deferring any judgment on athletics and therefore trying to imply that this won't affect female athletes. Well, wait a minute. It meant what about locker rooms? What about locker rooms? It's all throughout the rule.
Right. It's the locker room stuff is in there. What's more concern and where I think they may have overstepped is with the pronouns. And they're essentially mandating that you use pronouns as directed by the person. So like if I come in and I tell you, and I'm going to use a bizarre example that I actually saw on TikTok. I don't have TikTok. It was just a TikTok video that was put on X. But this person who was clearly female, but trying to be as androgynous as possible. Like they wanted their gender to not be obvious, right? So that's the way they're dressing and presenting themselves. But this person, clearly female, introduced herself with the pronouns be and fairy. Now, let's throw out the fact entirely that be and fairy are nouns, not pronouns.
Yes.
And
right.
And so she was saying things like, so you address me as like, if I were to say that I love myself, I wouldn't say that. I would say be loves be self, or fairy loves fairy self. And the Biden administration is now telling us not we should respect the pronouns, we must use the pronouns. Now, here's my question. If speech can be compelled, is it free?
Well, that's the question. And, Jordan Peterson...
Do we have a First Amendment issue here? Because the first person who says, I'm inconvenienced by this truckload of horse crap that you've forced me to cart around, then I think they have a real argument.
Well, it's one thing, isn't it, Virginia, to say there's certain things you can't say. I mean, after all, the FCC has rules that I think people have agreed by. There's a few words that you just can't say or else you get in trouble, get your hand slapped. And Jordan Peterson fought this battle up in Canada, right? And we looked at it carefully, and he ultimately,
Here's the thing, and I agree with you kind of on the broader point, but with the FCC, there are certain things that you can't say if you want to continue broadcasting on the radio, right?
Right.
You can still say them.
Right.
You just won't be allowed to broadcast anymore.
Right. Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's something in the negative, right? I mean, it's one thing to say you can't say. There's things like you can't say. I would say if you're on a college campus and they say you can't in a public speech use the N-word or something. I mean, we can have a discussion on that, but be compelled to say something, that's an entirely different construct.
Right. Well, and the other thing is we're talking about the federal government. You're giving me examples of things that are like on a college campus or on the radio. These are things that have context, as opposed to if you say this thing, the federal government will hold you in violation of a law.
Yeah.
And so it would be different if there were a federal law banning the public use of a specific word. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that's what it amounts to. Now, this is the public compulsion of a specific word or specific pronouns, or do you see what I'm saying? Like
I get it. Yeah,
I understand the comparison, but it's not quite apples to apples because you're talking about the federal government either restricting or compelling speech.
Right. Well, I mean, it's an absolute not only erosion, but
well, they are in effect restricting speech too, because you can't look at someone who is obviously female and say this is a woman if they claim to be otherwise.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
to address the pronouns as chosen, then you can't do that.
Well, I don't understand it. I mean, I'm thinking, we've been talking about Jerome and how he can't, as a young white male, get a look after 500, and with a good resume, an outstanding resume, he can't get a look. So I'm thinking, well, why shouldn't Jerome go on some college campus and apply in the Department of Human Resources and say, I'm a female? Why can't he do that and expect to be not discriminated against?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's they wonder why. What I think is interesting is that if you look at the things that all the left wing pundits cite the FBI as saying that radical white right wing males are the biggest danger, the biggest terrorist threat in our country. You've heard them all say this. Yep. Who do you think radicalized them? The people who have told them every day of their lives, especially people who are in high school now, this has been since the beginning of their education. You deserve to feel guilty because you're white. You deserve to feel guilty because you're male. You have got all this privilege that people in the LGBTQ community don't have, that women don't have, that minority ethnic groups and races don't have. You've got all this privilege. None of them have actually seen this privilege exemplified because they've spent their entire lives being told that they don't deserve it. They've spent their entire lives being told that they're the enemy. Who wouldn't be radical at this point?
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about the males more. And from a woman's standpoint, the other element of this, I mean, you've talked about the pronouns, you've talked about, it's got, obviously, last week you were on the way to a competition with your daughter, and we know what an impact this thing, if it goes through, is going to have on. Okay, what about the fact that under the new rule, this Title IX rule that came out, if a college guy and a college gal have a consensual relationship, and the next day the gal accuses him of sexual assault, or a soccer team is accused, I'm thinking of the Duke case here.
Yes.
There is now going to be no due process for male. And we know that sexual assault and predation does happen. That's not what this is about. But I mean, what about due process rights that have now been lost on the wake of this ruling?
Well, we know that sexual assault and rape happen, but we also know that false accusations happen. And this change does not allow for that to be a possibility. It changes the standard to, and it basically, and I will tell you this, like, I have a daughter who competes in sports, and we've talked about that. I also have a son who's in college, and I have had to sit him down and tell him there will be days that you just cannot win. There will be days when you are the bad guy in the room simply because you were born white and male. And that's it.
Wow.
There will be days. And, we've talked about this. We've seen it on media. We've talked about the, especially, even a couple of decades ago, more so than now, there are Black parents talking to their children saying, there will be days when the police think you're the bad guy, even when you've done nothing wrong. Well, that has now come full circle, and there will be days when the college will expel you because you had a conversation with the wrong woman, and she decided that she was going to. And
that's the last word, Virginia. We got to let it go, but I think that is beautiful, and we've got to get out, but we're going to leave it there. It's hard to believe, but we're there. Thank you, Virginia Kruta. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Back with Jim Talent at 8:06. Stay there.
St. Louis
Louis's home of the Dan Bongino Show.
Liberals seem to revel in your pain and enjoy it. If you doubt any of this, which you should, doubt is a healthy thing because it only increases the authenticity of the show when you go and back it up and do your own research. Go to True Social or Twitter and just look at the comments by the liberals.
Dan Bongino.
Yeah, you'll get people on the other side who say nasty things too. But I'm telling you, it is way more pervasive on the left.
Weekdays at 11 on News Talk STL.
Hey, barbecue lover, Tony Colombo here for my friend Jonathan Heslop and his company, Rockwood Lump Charcoal. If you're like me and log a lot of hours behind the barbecue pit, make sure you have a bag of Rockwood by your side next time you grill. You don't have to use nearly as much Rockwood charcoal as traditional briquettes, so your bag lasts longer, plus it burns cleaner, faster, and more evenly, providing a superior grilling experience. Use it once and you'll never want to use anything else. Rockwood Lump Charcoal is available at over 100 area locations. Find the closest one to you at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hi, I'm Officer Jacob Boomgarden with the Springfield, Missouri Police Department. We're currently looking for driven, qualified team players to become the next generation of community-minded servants in Springfield, Missouri. Our salaries and benefits are paid from day one. Plus, a career with the SPD gives you a truly unique opportunity to serve the community as a leader of it. To learn more, visit gospd.com. That's gospd.com. gospd.com. Brought to you by the Springfield, Missouri Police Department.
Larry Connors, USA.
Hunter Biden and his artwork.
Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words. What a coward.
The art gallerist apparently claimed that one of Hunter's financial backers purchased most of his paintings for $875,000. What's this? Oh, it's a scribble, but really it's a man walking into his future and seeing his past at the same time.
You are the epitome of white privilege.
They were laundering money, and he had all of his friends coming forward to help him out.
Larry Connors, weeknights at 6 on News Talk STL.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare
HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Gaza hospital officials claim at least 9 people have died from an Israeli airstrike on a residential building.
Those airstrikes overnight are part of a pattern of low-level Israeli strikes against particular positions. But what I think we can expect at some point in the coming weeks is a much bigger Israeli offensive in southern Gaza, particularly around the town of Rafah.
This is BBC's Wyrie Davis. The strike late Friday came as Israel pursues its nearly 7-month offensive against the Hamas terrorist group in Gaza. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise says the Senate's dismissal of all impeachment charges against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas sends a bad message about border security.
Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden don't care about securing America's border, and they have disregard for most Americans. You know, when you look at this issue, it has become the #1 issue in America.
Scalise was interviewed on the Salem News program This Week on the Hill. Cliff May with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy says President Biden showed an unwillingness to pursue victory over foreign adversaries, most recently Hamas and Iran, but a trend that began in the earliest days.
I think Biden capitulated to the Taliban in Afghanistan. I think that we went a pretty long way in Iraq and then decided we were okay to just have an exit strategy.
The Senate votes to reauthorize a controversial surveillance law.
An issue is whether the FBI should be restricted from using the program to search for Americans' data. The legislation, approved 60-34 shortly after midnight Saturday, would extend for 2 years the program known as Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It now goes to the president to become law. Democrats used the FISA Act to spy on President Trump during the 2016 election. Tasha Stevens reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
It has been confirmed. Those brave Americans who are trying to preserve free speech continue to be censored, shadow banned, or silenced. Wealth Protection Research is on a mission to share the liberating ideas of some of America's brightest and most free thinkers. People like Jim Rickards and Porter Stansberry, whose ideas are putting financial control back in the hands of everyday people, helping them protect their money against a government that seems intent on destroying it. Text TRUTH to 76626 to find out more. As this election moves forward, we just released a report that reveals our 3 favorite ideas for protecting and growing your wealth during the 2024 election. These ideas are especially critical if you have an IRA or 401k. Text TRUTH to 76626. Discover ideas that are so simple and actionable they might save your retirement. Text TRUTH to 76626 now for your free report. That's TRUTH to 76626.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
Hi, this is Ron Clutho. Join me for Groovy Grooves every Saturday to hear songs like this and memories that will take you back to a groovier place and time. Be sure to check out the playlist at newstalkstl.com for more Groovy Grooves.
And now for something completely different.
Groovy Grooves with Ron Clutho, Saturday nights at 10 on News Talk STL.
To all our incredible supporters, we at the David Dorn Foundation say thank you. Your 5-star online reviews that you recently posted are beacons of encouragement on our mission to assist first responders. And a shout out to Steve Katraba, who reviewed us with these powerful words. The Dorn Foundation continues to fill a need in the public safety community and thereby to the public. Steve, your words are more than a review. They show the impact we're making for first responders. To read more strong reviews, Google the Dorn Foundation now.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
This hour of the Randy Tobler Show brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
And I made it clear to Israelis, don't move on Haifa. It's just not, I mean, anyway, I just, look what we did recently when Israel was attacked.
Well, I was going to play that as just a funny soundbite because, of course, our hapless president told the Israelis a week or so ago not to move on Haifa. Well, they didn't move on Haifa the other night. They moved on Iran. At least that's what we think. They won't admit it. To help us understand what the heck happened this week with Israel responding to Iran's attack on Israel is former Senator Jim Talent, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. And Jim, this was an interesting event the other night when I told my wife, my God, the market's tanking, oil prices spiking. Is my son-in-law going to be drafted for service? My other son-in-law who's in the service going to be deployed? And then it all evaporated by the next morning. Welcome to the program. Help us unpack what happened this week with Israel's attack on Iran.
Well, hey, Randy, good to be on with you. Well, we know what
happened, I think, within limits. So Israel attacked the radar for Iran's S-300 air defense system in the facilities around Natanz, which is the locus for a lot of their nuke production. Okay, and the Israelis, although they haven't confirmed this and won't, I think they used a new system, a new missile, or new elements, and the point was to show the Iranians that they could destroy Iran's air defense systems. Because if you destroy their air defense systems, then you open up the whole country to the Israeli Air Force. So they sent a message, and I've been thinking about it ever since they did it. I think it was a pretty brilliant stroke, both strategically and tactically. It restored deterrence, but it did it without the kind of comprehensive attack that would have been a substantial diversion of Israeli assets at a time when they're preparing to go into Rafah, not Haifa, which is in Israel, as you know, and also will probably then move to push Hezbollah in the north beyond the Litani River, so that the Israelis can resettle some of their northern villages where 80,000 people have had to evacuate. So that's what they did. What we don't know is the nature of whether it was a new missile or whatever, but I suspect that the Iranians were taken by surprise. And so it's it's a way of showing what you can do as a method of restoring deterrence.
Well, there are some hard right wingers, I think one of whom is a member of the Israeli War Council, who is criticizing Israel and has caught a lot of flack from within Israel because he called the response lame. But on the other hand, as you said, when they have other bidding to do in behalf of their people in other venues, and in the same way, I think showing what deterrence really looks like, and I hope Joe Biden and friends are watching, they showed that when you in that particular instance, as it relates to Iran specifically, seems to me it was one of those, hey, we're walking softly but showing you what big stick we have, whereas Joe Biden's tactics seem to have been broadcast to the entire world that you are not going to use a big stick. In fact, you have a short stick and you won't even use that. I mean, it's a stark contrast in strategy and tactics, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge contrast, and I like your analogy. I think the idea of walking a little softly here, but showing the capabilities you have is a good way of putting it. No, I mean it's complete different. A huge part of the problem in the Middle East right now is because Biden has continued Obama's policy of trying to structure an equilibrium in the Middle East around a partnership with Iran. It's probably, and this is saying a lot, the single stupidest thing I've seen in the 30 plus years I've been around Washington and foreign policy, because Iran's interests. Let me just take a moment, and I'll do this in a value neutral way. Yes, the Iranian regime is terrible, but let's just look at how the regime defines its interests. So what Iran wants to do, Iran is a Persian Shia power. They want to overthrow the Sunni, somewhat more moderate regimes in the region, dominate the region, destroy Israel, and attack the United States at a minimum until the United States exits entirely from the Middle East. Now, that's obviously completely contradictory to our own interests in the region. And when you try and structure a partnership with a country that is clearly an adversary, I mean, it's not a partner. It will never be a partner. It's an adversary, okay? When you do that, then every time you try and operationalize that policy, you undermine your own position. So it's like you're in a boxing match with somebody and they're hitting you and you're hitting yourself. Every time you throw a punch, you're hitting yourself. And this is what Biden has done. By unfreezing their assets, lifting sanctions or not enforcing them, ending weapons embargoes, and one thing after another, he has empowered our enemy. And he has also convinced everybody in the region that we're crazy and therefore unreliable And so it's difficult to get friends and potential friends to work with us. And this is literally what has happened, as you know, Randy, because I've been on the show periodically. I've been saying this for years because it's true. Now, a lot of what Donald Trump did was really, really brilliant in the region, like the Abraham Accords and taking out Qasem Soleimani. But basically, all Trump really did was get the common sense strategy right. Iran is the adversary. And if you just get that right, then a lot of really good things suggest themselves to you. If you get that wrong, you can send Anthony Blinken over there 100 times, and all you're going to do is dig the hole deeper on yourself. So that's the end of the read. You can ask another question now. But that
well, okay. I get it.
Really
I get it totally.
Happened.
But
I mean,
yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
People that the hard thing is to convince people that anybody could do anything that dumb, because and I understand it. They're thinking, well, it can't be that stupid. Yep, it's that stupid.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so you mentioned the Abraham Accords, and it appeared as though while the other Arab nations that were party to that may not be Israel's BFF, it sort of seemed like a neighborhood watch to me. Everyone or most people in the region, most regimes in the region, recognizing that Iran's hegemony is not good for any of them collectively, just in terms of their entire security of the whole region. Is some of that coalition eroding as a result of Israel's aggressive attack, which, of course, I think we all realize is a necessity to once and for all eliminate Hamas? But is some of that eroding, or is that still holding strong? What's going on with that, the remnants of the Abraham Accord, as Israel continues to fight on in Gaza and gets bad press and misinformation and misrepresentation of the civilian deaths and on and on and on?
Well, I would say it's been a sort of one step forward, one step back since Trump left. Because Biden then went on also, and you can see why he, in other words, if you understand what I just said, if people, then you understand why, for example, Biden deliberately alienated the Saudis, because he wants a partnership with Iran, right? So the Saudis, of course, responded to that by opening up discussions with Iran. In other words, they said, okay, you know what, if you're not going to help us constrain Iran, we'll cut our own deal. So did the UAE. So that was all negative. On the other hand, what we saw the other day when Iran launched its missiles was that the Saudis and the Jordanians openly, visibly, which is what was really great about it, helped us and helped CENTCOM shoot down the missiles. So I would say that the strength of the logic behind the Trump policy is so powerful that it has survived even Biden's tenure here, and it can be picked up again. Okay, but it's not really going to go anywhere until either the Biden administration has an epiphany and decides, well, maybe Iran really is the adversary, or until we elect somebody new. Okay.
Well, let's now, in that context, having brilliantly illustrated what's going on over there strategically and tactically in the Middle East, our domestic arguments, and Jim, many of the people listening to this program are absolutely against any kind of foreign aid, whether it be to Ukraine, but specifically in this case, Israel or anyone else, until we get our border secure. They're up in arms, and an increasing number of Republicans in the House, and you were a House member before you were a senator, are up in arms saying, Mike Johnson, what's wrong with you? How come you won't secure our border before you're sending money to help, secure Israel's sovereignty and Ukraine and on and on and on? What do you make of the circus going on in the House as it relates to our foreign policy, specifically about the Middle East and aid to Israel?
Yeah, well, let me address that. And I think the instinct behind that impulse that we need to look out for America first. In other words, again, on the highest level is the strategic level. And so the instinct that all our foreign policy, and in fact domestic policy as well, ought to be to advance the interests of the people of the United States is absolutely correct. Now, the question with regard to foreign aid, and I had these issues when I was in office. I had many very fruitful discussions with constituents, and what I always said was, I support foreign aid when it advances the security and interests of the American people. And so, if, for example, giving money to UNRWA, the UN agency responsible or supposedly responsible for helping the Palestinians, not only doesn't advance our interests, it hurts our interests. We ought not to do it, okay? However, in this case, supporting Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan advances the interests of the United States for the same reason. Basically, it's the same logic I used before. The adversary of our adversary is our friend. And the most controversial, in my party is the Ukraine aid. And if the issue in Ukraine were a localized dispute between Russia and Ukraine, then I would tend to agree. We just stay out of it. That's what India's done. That's a rabbit hole I'm not going to go down. But from their perspective, that makes sense. But the problem is that Russia under Putin has, and quite deliberately, made itself our adversary, not just in Eastern Europe, but in the Middle East, and most importantly, in the Indo-Pacific. He and Xi Jinping declared a treaty of unlimited friendship, and he is helping China. So weakening our adversary helps us. And if you look at it from that perspective, really the question is, well, why shouldn't we help the Ukrainians? Because they are weakening the ability of the Russian state to hurt us in other places. Now, I agree. In fact, I wrote a column about this about a year and a half ago, that we should not finance a stalemated battlefield in Ukraine indefinitely. It's not in our interests, okay? There should be an exit strategy. Unfortunately, we can't get one because we have an administration that, it's not as bad as what they've done in the Middle East, but they're not focused on an outcome that benefits the United States. They're not explaining, okay, what is the end stage? But I don't think we can allow Ukraine to lose because that would help Putin. And again, it would undermine our reputation, letting another ally go down. That's not good. So I think we've got to sustain the Ukrainians until we get a new administration. And I think if we do, I kind of believe Trump when he says he thinks he can end the war very quickly. It's just a question of getting Putin to the table under circumstances where Putin has an incentive to negotiate a reasonable settlement. And I have a fair amount of faith that Trump can do that. But I think in the meantime, we do not. And the Ukrainians are, it won't be easy, but I think it can be done. In the meantime, the Ukrainians have problems now. We could go into that if you want, but I am concerned that if we don't provide them the basic enablers they need, the artillery shells, the javelins, that sort of thing, that they could lose this war in the next year. And if you had a cup of coffee with Donald Trump, he would tell you, I don't want that to happen. That would just make my life more difficult, which is true. Yeah. So, let's sustain Ukraine until we get an administration that has an intelligent idea about how we're going to end this thing. And the rest of the aid, I think the party's united about. I think just about everybody wants to support Israel. They want to support Taiwan. In terms of border security, I'd love it if the Congress could pass and get signed into law measures to enforce the border, even though it's not necessary. What we need there is a new president. Let's just say it. And in the meantime, I don't know what can be done. I certainly don't blame Johnson for not getting that done. We just don't have. Okay. We have somebody in a position who's supposed to enforce the law who's not enforcing the law. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And we have Schumer, who won't even have a discussion in a trial sense. Well, Jim, as always, I appreciate it, and we never have enough time. I hope as things continue to unfold and the boiling and the turbulence goes on over there, that you can help with your wisdom, and your experience in this is just invaluable to the audience. And I thank you for sharing it with us. Really do. Appreciate it.
Glad to do it, Randy. Just shoot me a text and we'll do it again.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Thanks, Jim. Have a great weekend. There he is, former Senator Jim Talent, and as the chair of the Reagan Leadership Council, and being in touch with of course, and always channeling the brilliance of Ronald Reagan's policies. I think that's what I'm continuing to hear. When Reagan was asked, what do you do when you think about foreign policy? I think it was always something like America wins. And that's what I'm hearing Jim say. America wins. Hey, we'll be back and talk about babies winning, babies who shouldn't be aborted. And there's a movement to try to fight back against this initiative petition that would like to wipe out babies in America, in Missouri. We'll come back and talk with Dr. Bob Onder just after a few words. Stay tuned.
And when you try and structure a partnership with a country that is clearly an adversary, then every time you try and operationalize that policy, you undermine your own positions. It's like you're in a boxing match with somebody and they're hitting you and you're hitting yourself.
What happens next?
President Biden may change his policy toward Israel.
Happens right here.
Obviously, Netanyahu is sending a very firm message over the call.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo with a great offer from the cleaning pros at Zero Res. So many of us are suffering from allergies right now. It's time to get your home clean and healthy, and Zero Res is here to help. Book a cleaning in April and mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129, plus you can take $50 off your air duct cleaning. Get the jump on spring cleaning now. Just mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Hello, fans of the paranormal. I'm Frankie, host of the newest show on News Talk STL on a Garage. And we'll be discussing everything paranormal, from ghosts, demons, hauntings, and aliens to Skinwalker, Bigfoot, fairies, and the Chupacabra. Every Saturday night between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., me and Jeremy will discuss mysterious events in St. Louis and surrounding areas, including gateway families and unsolved true crimes. That's right, it's all right here exclusively on News Talk STL from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Saturday night.
Replacing your roof is always a big deal and a big decision. That's why I want you to call my friends, the folks that we've trusted with our homestead, Eureka Contracting and Roofing. 636-938-ROOF. That's 636-938-ROOF. They are veteran-owned, over 30 years of experience in the construction and insurance industry. They'll replace 100% of your roof, siding, fascia, and gutters. They'll come to you with a personal consultation. Give them a call anytime that Mother Nature strikes you. 636-938-ROOF. Available 24/7 at eurekacontracting.com. That's eurekacontracting.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
So finding impartial jurors for Donald Trump's sham case in New York, is that mission impossible? We'll ask our favorite counselor, Susie Moore. We'll do that Friday at 10:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Well, you know, one of the most important issues of our time is protecting the unborn. And it's been probably the hot button issue since the Dobbs decision came down a couple of years ago. And to help us now discuss what's been going on in Missouri, specifically regarding that initiative petition issue and whether we will be able to do anything to protect the unborn. It's good to talk with Dr. Bob Onder, who's, of course, a former state senator and congressional candidate for Blaine Luetkemeier's seat. And Bob, welcome to the program as the guy who really was driving most, if not all, of the protection of the unborn in Missouri. You got to feel a lot of heartburn over what's going on and the potential threat to the unborn if this initiative petition passes.
Well, good morning, Randy. Yeah, it's great to be back. Indeed, I do. Indeed, I do. It has been a 50-year fight to protect innocent human life in the state of Missouri and around the country. And, we're coming down to the wire where this radical initiative petition that through Missouri's, IP process, where out-of-state progressive billionaires can come to Missouri and spend, a few $1,000,000 and buy themselves an amendment to our Constitution. Those forces are down to fewer than 3 weeks to collect the signatures to get that really destructive measure on the ballot. And so, so what prompted, a text I sent to you the other day is the Post-Dispatch is going all in trying to help the pro-abortion forces and trying to counter the decline to sign effort by Missouri Right to Life and others, and said I think some very very fallacious things about the pro-life efforts and the decline to sign effort.
Right. And so I got ahead of us, assuming that they're going to get their signatures. And that's really what the debate is about. They need to accumulate they need to have 170,000, roughly 172,000 signatures that
Roughly,
have to be approved, which means they have to get more than that because some are thrown out. But there is this decline to sign movement. And Bob, I've told the story on more than one radio show that I have been approached to sign this initiative petition by not one, but two people who have misrepresented what's in this petition, this constitutional amendment, as, we're just restoring Roe. We're just restoring Roe. Well, that's not the case, right? Let's discuss what really happens if this constitutional amendment passes and why people should decline to sign.
Yeah, that is 100% correct, Randy. Over the years, you and I have discussed: is there some sort of middle ground between Roe versus Wade and completely outlawing abortion? It's very clear that's not what this initiative petition is about. Roe versus Wade at least allowed health and safety regulation. It allowed licensing requirements where only physicians can do abortions. It allowed parental notification and consent laws. And Roe versus Wade allowed bans on barbaric practices like partial birth abortion. This initiative petition is extremely radical. It very explicitly says that any, quote, denial, interference, delay, or restriction of abortion is, quote, presumed invalid. So what are those things that I mentioned, like health and safety regulations, informed consent requirements, and so on? What are they other than restrictions? And we know the pro-abortion left hates these kind of health and safety regulations and restrictions. In fact, they call them, quote, trap laws, target regulation of abortion providers. The second this initiative petition would pass and be in our Constitution, ACLU lawyers, narrow lawyers, Planned Parenthood lawyers would be in court to strike down every one of Missouri's protections of the health and safety of women and of innocent human life.
And you know what's disturbing is the way the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, I like to call them the St. Louis Most Attached, the way they portrayed and they basically denied the truth of the ambiguities and the broad openings that are given to things that the Missouri Right to Life and other coalitions are saying, hey, wait a minute, like you said, at this point, as I understand it, look, let's talk about one of them. they allow basically pretty much anyone to assist in an abortion, right? You don't even have to be a physician. It pretty much opened the floodgates. And when and the Post Dispatch tried to dismiss that objection one after another.
One after another, Randy, and the thing is, the law here has to be. It's a general principle that in a contract, in any vague ambiguities are construed against the drafter. They didn't leave anything vague here. They just said any regulation of abortion, if you read line by line, every regulation of abortion is going to be presumed invalid. In another example I didn't mention yet is in paragraph 6, essentially that any restriction on public funding or government assistance of abortion is presumed invalid. From the early days after Roe versus Wade, about 1975, I believe it was, the Hyde Amendment represented a consensus of Republicans and Democrats that although abortion was legal post-Roe, at least taxpayers shouldn't be forced to fund abortion. That would go out the window, and your listeners would be forced to fund abortion through their tax dollars. So there is nothing middle of the road, nothing moderate, and certainly this isn't just a restoration of Roe. This is the most radical pro-abortion law, constitutional amendment that could be written, and that's exactly what they're gathering signatures for right now.
Yeah. Now, let's look at another provision in this amendment, which the Missouri Right to Life and my co-host in my other show, Stephanie Bell with Missouri Stands with Women, both of whom are in trying to advance this decline to sign. They point out that while you and I mean, you're an attorney, you're also a doc, I'm a doc,
Yes.
The trial lawyers and medical malpractice, they're no friends of ours, but
No,
but that
not at
said,
all.
you and I were both in training at Washington University when they would bring in a Kansas so-called doctor, and I use that term loosely, to come in and do late-term abortions down the street on Euclid Avenue, just down the street from Barnes and Jewish hospitals. And when there was a botched late-term abortion where they went in and they have to crunch the baby's bones, I make it very graphic for a purpose because it needs to be made graphic.
Yes.
Those bones could damage the woman's uterus, could result in bleeding and sepsis and near death. They would drop the patient off at the door, and we would be left trying to keep that patient alive. I was involved in some of those cases. Those botched abortion claims would no longer be valid under this amendment, as I understand it. Now, you're the attorney. I'm not. Am I right on this? And is Missouri Stands with Women right? Or is the Post Dispatch right?
Yeah, no, I think that is right, because in the law, or in paragraph 5 of the amendment, the proposed constitutional amendment, it talks about no person shall be penalized, prosecuted, or otherwise subjected to adverse action based on their actual potential perceived or alleged pregnancy outcomes, including but not limited to, and they list a bunch of things. If they had stopped with prosecution, okay, fine. Abortion's legal now. You can't prosecute anyone for doing an abortion. But they talked about adverse action and so on. Well, if you know anyone who's been involved in a malpractice lawsuit, it's an adverse action against you based on, quote, pregnancy outcomes. The whole point of this amendment is to draft everything as vaguely and broadly as possible, so that they can, they can really strike down all of our pro-life laws. But in this case, I think you're right. Strike down that right to seek recourse for medical malpractice damages in the civil justice system. I think that is right. I'm talking to it. Yeah, Randy.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Please.
Randy, and since we have two physicians on the phone this morning, I want to say that one of the biggest lies that are being told on the sidewalk in front of the Walmart is this: the idea that somehow this amendment is needed so that women can get good care of their health in the case of a miscarriage. Randy, you and I know that for decades, centuries, pro-life OBGYNs and other doctors have given good care to women who have had miscarriages. Doctors like the one I'm talking to, who would never do an abortion, take good care of women. The idea that this radical pro-abortion amendment is necessary to ensure a woman's right to care of her miscarriage is just a lie.
Yeah, that's a total mischaracterization, and frankly, it's an insult to good doctors, especially pro-life doctors, who absolutely are at all times looking out for the health and welfare of a woman, and would in no way, shape, or form compromise care and somehow threaten the health of a woman because of the management of a miscarriage or a tubal pregnancy. And I could go on and on for hours.
Exactly.
But look, I don't know where they are in their drive, but they're certainly well funded. And as you said, the drive to obtain these signatures, and in fact, the very notion and drive for this amendment is like in Kansas and Ohio and others, it's funded from outside the state.
Well, it is. It's funded outside. The formula is, and if you go on my social media feed, you'll find lots of people saying things like, "Oh, just let the people vote. Don't you trust the people?" Well, when the people are lied to, not only by the multi-tens of $million pro-abortion effort that we'll see if they get the signatures, but they're actually being lied to by the text of the ballot initiative itself. It's probably 90% of the money comes from out of state. We really are talking about out of state left-wing pro-abortion billionaires coming in to our state to buy an amendment to our Constitution. And 50 years of very carefully considered, very carefully drafted law, written by the Missouri House, the Missouri Senate, by your elected officials, signed by your governor, sometimes vetoed by the governor and overridden by the legislature. All of that 50 efforts to protect the health and safety of women, to protect the unborn, that'll be thrown out the window by this out-of-state special interest money.
Talking with Dr. Bob Onder at Bob Onder Mo on X, formerly Twitter, who's of course candidate for Missouri Congressional District 3, and a staunch advocate for our constitutional values along the way, both here in the state and Bob, I got to tell you, I just want to know here if I can get your opinion. I know that it's breaking yesterday. It was a Friday night dump. The assault on women and women's equality and women's rights and the rights of young women to compete against women and not men masquerading as women, not having to shower with men masquerading as women. Your thoughts on that assault by the Biden administration on Title IX?
Oh, yeah, this is ridiculous. It is a truly perverse interpretation of Title IX that a law that was passed to protect women's sports is now being used to decimate, to destroy women's sports. Your best high school track athletes, boys, can beat the world champion women in that same sport. Women's sports are over if the Biden administration has its way and if Biden is reelected in November. But even worse yet, the danger to the safety and the privacy of women when boys and men pretending to be women can go into women's restrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms it's just appalling. It's perverse. I cannot see how anyone with a daughter, no matter how progressive, could support this garbage. It's just pathetic, and it's just a further evidence of the undermining of our culture and our society and decency by the far left.
Well, I know there's been moves in the Congress, and I just wonder how important this is in your run, and as a plank in your your platform positions, your policy positions. There's a move in Congress, and it's never really gotten a lot of momentum, but there's been bill after bill, addressing the issue of an over aggressive bureaucratic state, and some reining in to where when a statute's passed and then rules are made, that the Congress should have final say on whether those rules comport with the statute. Is there any hope of that ever seeing the light of day in a future Congress with a future Oval Office
Randy,
president?
Randy, I think that absolutely needs to be done. I think it should be done in the law, in statute, but I think there's a very good chance that thanks to Donald Trump appointees on the U.S. Supreme Court, that the so-called Chevron doctrine will be overturned. The Chevron doctrine just holds that if there's any ambiguity in the statute, courts should always defer to the so-called experts, the bureaucrats, and the federal agencies, and that's just bad law, because we know those federal agencies and bureaucrats have no sense of restraint. They're not restrained by voters. They're not restrained, by the rule of law. And the Chevron doctrine says they can't even be restrained by judges and courts. So, that absolutely needs to be overturned judicially, but it will be a major focus of my service in Congress to rein in the bureaucratic state, the deep state, the swamp.
All right, Bob, other than Twitter, at Bob Ondermo, where can people learn more about your run for Congress, your policy positions?
Yeah, my website is bobondermo.com, and Facebook is Bob Ondermo.
All right. Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate you being on with me. All the best this
Randy.
weekend and going forward. We'll see you.
Thank you very much.
All right. There he is, Dr. Bob Onder. Boy, I tell you, this initiative petition, if they ask you to sign it, tell them no, and tell friends of yours that are having the wool pulls over their eyes and this initiative petition been misrepresented, please have them strongly consider not signing as well. When we come back, your call's welcome. 314-912-1019. That's the number here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1 as we wrap it up on the Tobler Show.
There is nothing middle of the road, nothing moderate, and certainly this isn't just a restoration of Roe. This is the most radical pro-abortion law, constitutional amendment that could be written, and that's exactly what they're gathering signatures for right now.
The news and talk.
Freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas.
That matters to St. Louis.
What we saw was the performance of a permanent politician.
This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. Folks tell me they just aren't happy with their health care these days. You too? Hi, Dr. Randy Tobler here for Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Trust and relationships, they're essential to great care, and those values define our practice. No bright, shiny objects or the latest fads here, just caring for you with 30 years of experience and making it about you, not the bill. Interested? Schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com, shepherding you to medical freedom.
Let me tell you what will improve the security, the beauty, the energy efficiency of your home. Durable windows from Window World. Mike Ferguson here, encouraging you to call them today, 314-993-1800. Window World uses a double-strength glass that has a lifetime warranty. In fact, that warranty covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. Call them today. Find out what they can do for you. 314-993-1800. Once again, 314-993-1800.
Hi, Mark McCloskey here. You know, when I was under felony indictments, I couldn't buy a gun thanks to the federal government. But my buddy Ian McFarland down at Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton said, hey, you know, whenever you get the felonies dropped, give me a holler. We'll take care of you. The day I got those felony beefs dropped against us, we were down there and I bought my new AR-15, and he just had a great engraving and mother of pearl inlay done on a 1911 Colt for me, too. Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton, Missouri. Go to modernweaponsystems.com or call them at 314-252-0486.
Hey guys, Ken Kruger. I've gotten to know these guys really well over the last few years. Yes, St. Louis Bath and Renovation. They're the most trusted name in bathroom remodelers in the St. Louis area. In fact, if you need bathroom repairs, complete bathroom remodeling, or handyman services, call St. Louis Bath and Renovation at 314-477-6476 or email Rob at stlbr.com. That's St. Louis Bath and Renovation.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
That we're back on Facebook, so that's good. Somehow we got that straightened out. If you had to switch over to Rumble or YouTube or Twitter, we're back on Facebook now. So if you'd like to catch the end of the show, that'd be great. It's been a good one. If you missed it, Jerome will have it up on the Spotify podcast platform later on today. Joining us now on the phone is Jeremy. How you doing, Jeremy? Thanks for joining the Tobler Show.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
I wanted to bring up another issue with the petition that those on the right aren't really paying attention to, because we don't really pay attention enough to what the left does with language. And I've been in pro-life ministry for almost 20 years, and I've watched over the last few years as the left has transitioned, and that's a pun, from the term women's health care over to this term reproductive health. And if you look at that petition, they use the term reproductive health or reproductive freedom, I think 7 times. This word would be put into our Constitution, and it's not defined. But if you look at what the left is doing with that word, those words, they're including anything having to do with reproductive organs in the term reproductive health. You can go do a search on Google for reproductive health, gender transitions, and you're going to find that Boston Children's Medical Hospital, University of Chicago Med, they are doing gender transitions, hormone therapy, hysterectomies, gender-affirming hysterectomies under the term reproductive health. So all of the concerns that Dr. Onder just laid out with abortion also apply to gender transition. If this gets in our Constitution, schools will be allowed to gender transition children without telling their parents. This is a much bigger deal than just abortion.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that. I thought you were going to go down the how can abortion be reproductive by its very essence of the definition of the word. That is not reproductive. That is destructive behavior.
Correct.
But you're right.
So are gender transitions. It's
Yeah,
destructive.
you're right. Yeah. Hey, I didn't think about that as far as the broad application of the term reproductive health. Thanks for bringing that to my to our attention. I am going to now include that in my cascade of objections to the initiative petition. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Jeremy, and thank you for your work in behalf of the unborn. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the line is John. I think it's John the first. How you doing, John? Thanks for weighing in this morning. What's on your mind?
Well, hey, and I apologize. I started listening about 8:30. Did you guys talk about the trial for Trump that started on Monday?
Yeah, we did talk about it earlier with Zach Smith at 6:25, actually.
Gotcha. I was still sleeping, Randy.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll forgive you, but you can listen to the podcast. That's okay.
What's your thought of So I don't think it's going so well for Mr. Trump. Obviously he's showing his age by falling asleep. Dirty diaper Don is sitting there filling his Depends, and he falls asleep and falls back in it. And then yesterday, you had basically a human sacrifice or burnt offerings to a false god there in Donald Trump. And it's not covered very much on Fox News or Newsmax. I mean, they cover some of it, but they didn't cover.
Well, I understand from attorney friends of mine that there's nothing more boring than jury selection. I mean, it is the most boring aspect. And Trump has bigger fish to fry. And after all, the DOJ, with its weaponization of our legal system and unprecedented application of statutes that have never been used but could have been in other applications, they're taking him off the campaign trail. So I think he's just resting up so he can go and campaign in the few hours that he has left. You saw him go to the bodega and get lots of accolades when he went to the bodega, where the man defending himself stabbed some perpetrator to death, which is appropriate. That should have happened. And Alvin Bragg tried to prosecute him. Go ahead.
And the crowd, that pre-planned crowd that was there, were full of young Republicans.
Yeah, well, there's never pre-planned crowds with Ilhan Omar or AOC either, right? There's never pre-planned crowds with them.
I mean, I don't follow those two people, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's good. All right. Hey, listen, I want to play for you something. You talked about what do you call him? Dirty diaper Don? Okay, take a listen to a clip here that Joe Biden, in a speech the other day, Joe Biden said something that really had me scratching my head. Maybe you, because you are the arbiter of all things wise and good, John the First. Maybe you can translate this Biden gaffe as far as I'm saying. Maybe translate this for us. Take a listen.
And my uncle, they called him.
No. Jerome, please play number 7. Number 7, the Biden bite.
Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy? Because that's America. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy? Because that's America. Can you explain to me, what Biden was saying? We need a little Biden translation. And why did the audience applaud, John? I'm going to give you the last word.
Good question there. Let's see. Choose freedom over democracy. Would that be what Republicans call democracy? Or
no. Don't deflect. Don't deflect. Don't deflect. We all know what democracy is.
We're talking about the definition of democracy. What is it?
No. We're talking about freedom over democracy. What in the world? That Joe Biden wasn't speaking for Republicans. It was Joe Biden speaking. So what was he saying?
Speaks for all America.
He does.
America's president, is he not?
Okay, so we're going to choose freedom over democracy. That means that Joe Biden is threatening democracy because he's choosing freedom over democracy. And he claims that Trump is the threat to democracy. Explain that.
Trump is a threat to democracy. He said he wanted to be a dictator on day one.
You're mischaracterizing the context. Come on, you're better than that, St. John. He was talking about he was going to dictate a closure of the border, just like Biden did. Hey, I got to run, but thank you for the call. I always enjoy it. You always wait till the last minute. Hey, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you calling. Seriously. Hey, we had a really barn burner of a show. We thank you for joining us, however you could join us and whenever you could join us. Make sure you catch the podcast and stay tuned to all the great programming today and every day on News Talk STL. Remember, faith, family, freedom. Those are the key principles to restoring this America to the greatest country this planet has ever seen. We'll see you next week.
That transfigures you and me as he died to make men holy. Let us